How to Force Yourself to Take Action, written and published by audiobook fans. Most people know what it feels like to want something better. You dream about being successful, achieving your goals, or improving your life. But there's often a big gap between what you want and what you actually do. You might struggle to take action, or even when you do, it feels like you hit a wall. It's frustrating, isn't it? You have the motivation, you know what you need to do, but somehow it's so hard to take that first step and keep going. Here's the thing, taking action isn't just about having motivation or waiting for the right moment. It's about creating a habit of doing, even when motivation is low or life gets in the way. In this video, I'm going to show you how to force yourself to take action, no matter the situation. We're going to talk about the real steps you can take, the mindset shifts that make all the difference, and the habits that will turn those goals you dream about into reality. If you've ever caught yourself procrastinating or telling yourself, "I'll do it later," then this is for you. You can build the discipline to stop waiting for the perfect time and start making progress, even when it feels hard. I'll give you the practical advice and the mindset tools to help you take consistent action, starting today. By the end of this, you'll feel equipped to push past the excuses and get into action. You'll understand how small steps each day will build up into big results. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about showing up and doing something. Let's get into how you can take control and start making progress toward the life you've always wanted. Stick with me, because what you learn here could be the turning point in how you approach your future. Chapter 1. The Power of Discipline. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people see it as a grueling task, something that takes away their freedom or forces them into a rigid, joyless existence. But when you truly understand discipline, you realize it's not something that holds you back, it's the very thing that propels you forward. It's the foundation for everything you want to achieve. Discipline is the path to freedom, the bridge between intention and action. It is the core of personal growth and success. Imagine your life without discipline. Picture yourself constantly being swept away by distractions, letting your impulses dictate your actions, and watching opportunities slip through your fingers. Without discipline, you live reactively. You wait for motivation to show up, and when it doesn't, you stay stuck. But with discipline, you create your own momentum. You move forward even when motivation is nowhere to be found. Discipline doesn't just show up when it's convenient, it's a commitment to doing what needs to be done, no matter what. At its core, discipline is about making choices. It's about deciding what you want most over what you want now. It's the quiet, consistent decisions you make every day that determine the direction of your life. When you wake up in the morning, discipline is the reason you get out of bed and do the work even when you'd rather stay under the covers. It's the reason you stay focused on your goals, even when distractions threaten to pull you in 1,000 different directions. Discipline is not about perfection, it's about commitment. It's about deciding, day after day, to do the things that will move you closer to your dream, no matter how uncomfortable or inconvenient. The first step in cultivating discipline is recognizing that it's a skill that can be developed. It's not something you're born with, and it's not something that only a few lucky people have. Discipline is a habit, and like any habit, it grows stronger the more you practice it. The truth is, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out right away. What you need is the willingness to start and then to keep going, even when it feels hard. When you commit to building discipline, it's about starting with small actions. You don't need to change your entire life in one fell swoop. Start small, with simple tasks that you can do consistently. Maybe it's waking up a little earlier each day, or making a habit of reading a chapter of a book before bed. Whatever it is, it's the consistency that matters. These small actions compound over time, and before you know it, they become part of who you are. You don't even have to think about it anymore, you just do it. The beauty of discipline is that it doesn't require motivation. Motivation is fleeting. It's unreliable. Some days you'll feel like taking action, and other days you won't. But when you develop discipline, you show up regardless of how you feel. You show up because you've made a decision, and that decision doesn't waver based on your emotions. That's where real progress happens. When you rely on motivation, you're at the mercy of your moods and circumstances. But when you cultivate discipline, you take control of your actions, regardless of how you feel in the moment. The truth is, discipline is freedom. You might think that giving up on your impulses and desires means giving up your freedom, but in reality, it's the opposite. When you are undisciplined, you are a slave to your desires. You are controlled by distractions, laziness, and the fear of doing hard things. But when you develop discipline, you break free from all of that. You take back control of your time, your energy, and your future. Discipline isn't about restriction, it's about focus. It's about choosing to invest your energy in the things that truly matter, not the things that momentarily feel good. If you want to make lasting changes in your life, discipline is the key. It's the thing that separates the dreamers from the doers. It's easy to dream about success, about making a difference, about achieving greatness. But it's the disciplined actions, the daily effort, that turn dreams into reality. It's the small decisions, made day in and day out, that lead to the success you desire. The secret isn't about finding the perfect strategy or waiting for the right time. The secret is about showing up, day after day, and doing the work. Of course, discipline doesn't mean doing everything perfectly. There will be days when you slip up, days when you feel like giving up, and days when you fall short of your goals. But even then, discipline is about getting back up and continuing the journey. It's about recognizing that one mistake or failure doesn't define you. It's the pattern of your actions over time that shapes who you become. One of the most powerful aspects of discipline is that it's transferable. The more you practice discipline in one area of your life, the easier it becomes to apply it in others. Maybe you start by being disciplined about your health, working out consistently, eating better, and getting enough sleep. As you build that habit, you'll notice that your discipline in other areas of your life also improves. You become more disciplined in your work, in your relationships, and in your personal growth. It starts to become part of who you are. Discipline becomes a way of life, not a temporary fix. But building discipline doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, effort, and patience. You have to be willing to put in the work, even when the results aren't immediate. It's easy to be disciplined when you see instant progress, but true discipline is about sticking with it when you don't see any results at all. It's about trusting the process, even when it feels like nothing is happening. One of the most powerful ways to build discipline is by setting clear, specific goals. When you know exactly what you want to achieve, it's easier to stay focused and motivated. But the key is to break those goals down into small, actionable steps. It's not enough to say, "I want to be successful." You need to know exactly what success looks like for you and what actions you need to take to get there. Discipline is all about executing those actions, even when you don't feel like it. Discipline also requires self-awareness. You have to be honest with yourself about where you're falling short, what distractions are getting in your way, and what behaviors are sabotaging your progress. Self-awareness allows you to adjust your actions and course correct when necessary. It's about learning from your mistakes, not letting them define you. It's about staying committed to your long-term vision, even when the short-term rewards aren't immediate. As you build discipline, it's important to remember that it's not about perfection, it's about progress. You're not going to be disciplined all the time, and that's okay. The goal is not to be perfect, it's to keep moving forward, even if it's just a little bit at a time. Discipline isn't about being rigid or controlling every aspect of your life. It's about making the decisions that align with your values and your goals. It's about consistently choosing actions that move you closer to the person you want to be. The beauty of discipline is that it's within your control. No one else can make you disciplined. It's a choice you make every day, and every time you choose discipline, you get closer to the life you want to live. So, the next time you find yourself tempted to procrastinate or give in to distractions, remember this: discipline is your path to freedom. It's the tool that will help you become the person you're meant to be, and the power to develop it lies in your hands. Chapter 2. Overcoming Procrastination. It's not about time, it's about choice. We've all experienced it, the feeling of having all the time in the world to get something done, only to realize hours, days, or even weeks have passed without making any real progress. It's easy to point to time as the enemy. We convince ourselves we don't have enough of it, or we'll get to it later when the time is right. But what if I told you that the real problem isn't time at all? What if it's not about when you do something, but whether or not you choose to do it in the first place? The truth is, procrastination has very little to do with the clock ticking down or the calendar flipping its pages. It's all about choice. The choices you make, the mindset you have, and the way you approach your goals. Time is always going to be limited, and there will always be distractions. But you have the power to decide how to spend that time. Procrastination is less about being busy and more about avoiding discomfort, avoiding the task at hand because it feels overwhelming or unappealing in the moment. The key to overcoming procrastination isn't managing time better, it's learning how to make better choices in the face of those tasks that you'd rather put off. It starts with understanding why we procrastinate in the first place. It's easy to think of procrastination as just a matter of laziness, but that's not really it. In fact, procrastination often happens because we're afraid of failure, afraid of not being perfect, afraid of the unknown. When we put things off, we're giving in to that fear. Instead of facing a challenge head-on, we distract ourselves with something that feels easier, like scrolling through social media or watching another episode of that show we've already seen 100 times. In the moment, it feels like a relief, but deep down, we know we're not making progress. We're just delaying the inevitable, and that feeling of guilt starts to pile up. But here's the good news: you have the ability to change this pattern. It all comes down to your choices. Every time you choose to face the discomfort and do the work anyway, you're training your mind to shift away from procrastination. You're not waiting for motivation to strike, you're creating it yourself. Motivation doesn't always just show up when we need it. It's something you have to build. It starts with making the choice to act, even when you don't feel like it. The act of doing, no matter how small the task, generates a kind of momentum. It's like pushing a heavy object. It's tough at first, but once you get it moving, it's much easier to keep going. Now, let's talk about how to break the cycle. The first step is realizing that you don't need to wait for the perfect moment. Waiting for the right time to do something is another form of procrastination. There will never be a perfect time. You don't need the stars to align to take action. The key is to start, even if it's a small step, even if it's just 10 minutes of work or one tiny action toward your goal. The key is getting started. Once you begin, you'll often find that it wasn't as hard as you thought. The hardest part is always the beginning, the mental block that holds you back. A great way to trick your brain into getting started is by setting a timer. Commit to working for just 5 or 10 minutes. That's it. You're not committing to hours of effort. You're just giving yourself permission to begin, without the pressure of a long-term commitment. More often than not, once the timer goes off, you'll realize you're in the flow, and you'll want to keep going. Even if you don't, though, you've done more than you would have done if you hadn't started at all. And that's progress. Another strategy is breaking the task down into smaller, more manageable chunks. When we look at a big project or goal, it can feel overwhelming. Our minds start to freeze up, and we convince ourselves it's too much. But when you break it down into small, actionable steps, suddenly it doesn't feel as intimidating. Take the big, scary project and divide it into tiny tasks. Each small task feels more achievable, and you start to see real progress. Before you know it, those small steps add up to something big. And here's where the power of consistency comes into play. Procrastination thrives when we allow it to build up over time. But the more you make a habit of taking small actions, the easier it becomes to keep going. One tiny step today leads to another tiny step tomorrow. It becomes a routine. You're not waiting for the perfect time to do it. You're just doing it because it's part of your day, just like brushing your teeth or getting dressed. It's no longer optional. You've created a new habit, and habits are much harder to break than procrastination. But overcoming procrastination isn't just about taking action. It's about shifting your mindset. It's about changing how you view tasks, challenges, and even failures. The next time you feel the urge to procrastinate, remind yourself that discomfort is a part of the process. Every task worth doing comes with a certain level of discomfort. You'll never feel 100% ready, and you'll never feel 100% motivated. But you don't need to feel ready to take action. You just need to take it. In the end, it's not about waiting for motivation or the perfect moment. It's about committing to yourself and your goals, even when it's hard. One of the biggest changes you can make is to stop thinking of tasks as burdens. Instead, think of them as opportunities to grow. When you change your perspective, you start to see tasks not as something to dread, but as something that will help you move forward. Every task completed, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goals. It's an opportunity to prove to yourself that you're capable, that you can push through discomfort, and that you're willing to do whatever it takes. The key to defeating procrastination is taking full responsibility for your actions. It's easy to blame time, circumstances, or external factors for not getting things done. But the reality is that it's up to you. You are the one who has the power to choose what to do with your time. You're the one who decides whether or not you're going to show up. And the more you take responsibility for your actions, the less room there is for procrastination. You realize that the longer you wait, the longer it will take to get where you want to go. And here's the truth. You will never feel 100% ready. That's just the nature of things. But you can make the choice to act anyway. The trick is to stop waiting for the perfect moment and start taking imperfect action. That's when you build momentum, and that's when change happens. It's not about finding time. It's about making time. Time doesn't magically appear, and it's never going to be easier than it is right now. Don't let procrastination steal your time away. Make the choice to start today. Take that first step, even if it's small, and watch how it builds into something bigger. The best time to start is now, and the only way to defeat procrastination is through action. Choose action. Choose progress. Choose today. Chapter 3: Get comfortable being uncomfortable. The key to growth, the key to moving forward in life, lies in your ability to get comfortable with discomfort. It sounds strange, doesn't it? The idea that the very thing we avoid, the thing that feels uncomfortable and unpleasant, is actually the doorway to our progress. We live in a world that constantly seeks comfort, from the cushy chair to the warm blanket, to the perfectly calibrated temperature of our environment. We surround ourselves with things that soothe us. And while there's nothing wrong with enjoying comfort from time to time, we have to understand that growth doesn't live in comfort zones. Think about the times in your life when you've grown the most. I'm not talking about the easy moments, the moments when everything was flowing and everything seemed effortless. I'm talking about the moments when things were tough, when you were pushing yourself beyond what you thought you could do. Maybe it was the time you stayed up late working on that project, or when you showed up to something despite feeling nervous. Maybe it was that time when you faced rejection, and instead of quitting, you got back up and tried again. It's not the easy moments that transform us, it's the uncomfortable ones. The moments where we decide to do something even though it feels scary or difficult. The reality is, most people spend their lives avoiding discomfort. It's only natural. Who wants to feel awkward or uncertain? But here's the thing, every time we avoid discomfort, we're also avoiding growth. If you want to see change in your life, if you want to move toward your goals, you have to learn how to embrace discomfort. You need to become okay with being uncomfortable, because it's in those moments that you're actually doing the work that will lead to your success. It's not about seeking out discomfort for the sake of it, but about realizing that it's part of the process. When you choose to step outside of your comfort zone, you're choosing to grow. You're choosing to face the fear, the doubt, and the uncertainty that comes with doing something new. The only way to break free from the cycle of stagnation is to push through the discomfort, to face the hard things head on, and to do them anyway. It's easy to be motivated when everything feels right. It's easy to go for a run when the weather is perfect, or work on your project when everything is falling into place. But true growth happens when things aren't perfect, when the odds are stacked against you, when you're feeling tired or frustrated. In those moments, the decision you make, whether or not to push through, is what determines whether you'll stay stuck or move forward. One of the most powerful things you can do is change your perspective on discomfort. Instead of viewing it as something to avoid, see it as a sign that you're on the right path. Discomfort is an indicator that you're stretching yourself. It's a signal that you're doing something important. When you start to shift your mindset in this way, the uncomfortable feelings lose their power over you. You stop seeing them as threats and start seeing them as opportunities. Every time you push through discomfort, you become stronger, more resilient, and more capable of handling whatever life throws at you. Let's talk about how to make that shift. The first thing you need to do is reframe how you view discomfort. Instead of running from it, lean into it. When you feel that knot in your stomach or that fear creeping up, understand that it's not a reason to back away. It's a sign that you're doing something meaningful. You're growing, and growth is often uncomfortable. That's where the magic happens. Start by identifying the areas of your life where you're avoiding discomfort. Maybe it's a difficult conversation you're putting off, a goal you've been avoiding because it feels too overwhelming, or a project you keep pushing to the back burner. Whatever it is, take a deep breath and acknowledge the discomfort. Then ask yourself, what's the worst that could happen? Usually when we break things down, we realize that the thing we're avoiding isn't as scary as it feels in our heads. Yes, it might be tough. Yes, it might challenge us. But it's not the end of the world. In fact, it's often the beginning of something much better. Now take that uncomfortable thing and break it down into smaller steps. If it feels too big to tackle all at once, don't worry, just focus on one small action at a time. Maybe it's making a phone call or sending an email. Maybe it's just getting started on a task you've been avoiding. The key is to take action, no matter how small, and to do it even though it feels uncomfortable. Every time you choose to act despite the discomfort, you're teaching yourself that you can handle more than you thought you could. But there's another piece to this puzzle. You need to build up your tolerance for discomfort. Just like any other skill, the more you practice, the better you get at it. Start with small doses of discomfort and work your way up. Take on tasks that make you a little uncomfortable and push through. The more you do this, the easier it becomes to face bigger challenges. It's like building muscle at the gym. The first few days are hard, but over time your body becomes stronger and more capable. The same goes for your ability to handle discomfort. The more you face it, the less it will hold you back. Here's something to keep in mind: discomfort doesn't last forever. In fact, it's often temporary. That feeling of unease will pass, but the growth you experience will last long after the discomfort fades. Think about it. How many times have you gotten through something difficult and looked back on it with pride? Maybe it was a tough workout that left you exhausted but feeling stronger, or a hard conversation that ultimately deepened your relationship. In those moments, the discomfort was temporary, but the rewards were lasting. Discomfort also teaches you resilience. Every time you push through, you strengthen your mental and emotional toughness. You prove to yourself that you can handle challenges, and you develop the confidence to take on even bigger ones in the future. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build by constantly facing discomfort and moving through it. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Another important aspect of getting comfortable with discomfort is learning how to manage your emotions. It's natural to feel fear, anxiety, or self-doubt when you're faced with something challenging. But here's the secret: your emotions don't have to control you. You can acknowledge those feelings, but you don't have to let them dictate your actions. Just because you're feeling uncomfortable doesn't mean you can't keep moving forward. The key is to separate your feelings from your actions. You can feel scared and still take action. You can feel uncertain and still keep going. In the end, getting comfortable with discomfort is about realizing that it's not something to avoid. It's something to embrace. The more you lean into discomfort, the more you grow. The more you grow, the more you'll accomplish. Discomfort is not the enemy, it's the gateway to your potential. So the next time you feel that unease creeping in, don't run from it. Step toward it. Lean into it, because on the other side of that discomfort, you'll find the person you were always meant to be. Chapter 4: The Science of Momentum. Have you ever had those days when you feel like you're stuck in quicksand? You're moving, but it's slow, difficult, and the harder you try, the more exhausted you become. It's frustrating, right? On the flip side, have you ever had those days where you feel like you can't stop? Like once you take that first step, the momentum just kicks in, and you're off to the races. Things seem to flow effortlessly, and before you know it, you've accomplished more than you ever thought possible. The difference between these two scenarios isn't just luck or timing, it's momentum. Momentum is a powerful force, and once you understand how it works, you can harness it to propel yourself towards success, no matter how big or small the goal. So, what exactly is momentum? In the simplest terms, momentum is the idea that once you start something, it becomes easier to keep going. It's the same principle that applies when you push a heavy object. At first it takes a lot of effort to get it moving, but once it's in motion, it's much easier to keep it moving. This applies to everything from building good habits to achieving big goals. The science behind momentum is rooted in physics, where the more force you apply to an object, the faster it moves. In our lives, the more action we take toward our goals, the more momentum we build, and the easier it becomes to keep pushing forward. The key to momentum is action. It doesn't matter how small the step is, just taking that first step is crucial. You see, our brains have a natural tendency to resist starting things. The thought of a big task can feel overwhelming, and that resistance can paralyze us into inaction. But once you take that first step, no matter how small, it's like a switch flips. The resistance begins to fade, and suddenly, things start to feel easier. You're no longer facing the full weight of the task all at once. You've broken it down into a manageable chunk, and momentum takes over. The best part about momentum is that it builds on itself. It's not just about getting started, it's about continuing to move forward. Imagine you're writing a book. At the beginning you might struggle with writer's block or get distracted easily. But once you start writing, even if it's just for 10 minutes a day, you begin to build momentum. That small daily effort starts to compound. What started as a chore becomes a habit. You stop thinking about the work as a burden and start looking forward to it because you've built momentum. Every word you write feeds into the next, and before you know it, you've written a chapter. Momentum makes the process feel almost effortless, even though it started with just a small focused action. But let's talk about the other side of momentum, the dreaded slump. What happens when you lose momentum? You stop taking action, and before you know it, things grind to a halt. That's when things get tough. You've lost the flow, and it becomes harder and harder to get back into the groove. Losing momentum can feel like a setback, but here's the truth: it's not the end. The beauty of momentum is that it can be rebuilt, and it doesn't take as much effort as you might think. If you're finding yourself stuck, the first step is to just start again. Don't worry about how big or small the action is, just do something. It's the act of moving forward that sparks the momentum again. One of the most powerful ways to build and maintain momentum is through consistency. It's easy to think that momentum only works when you're on a roll, but the real key is showing up consistently, even on the days when you don't feel like it. The more consistent you are with your actions, the stronger your momentum becomes. Think about exercise. On the days when you feel like skipping a workout, it's the consistent habit that pulls you through. The habit itself builds the momentum. It's not about doing everything perfectly, it's about showing up. The more you show up, the more momentum you create. It's a snowball effect. The more you do, the easier it becomes to do more. But what about those days when you feel like you just can't go any further? What about the days when the weight of everything feels too much, and you feel like you're just spinning your wheels? On those days, it's crucial to remember that momentum doesn't always mean going full speed ahead. Sometimes it means slowing down a bit and acknowledging where you are. It's important to honor your energy levels and give yourself permission to take breaks. Momentum is about continuous forward motion, not about running yourself into the ground. If you need to rest, rest. But don't break the chain. Don't let that small setback stop you from moving forward in whatever way you can. Another way to create lasting momentum is by setting up systems that work for you. This means building routines and structures that make it easier to take action consistently. For instance, if you want to build the momentum of a healthy lifestyle, set yourself up for success by creating systems. Meal prep on Sundays. Set out your gym clothes the night before. Make a habit of scheduling your workouts, like appointments. These systems reduce friction and make it easier for you to act. The less effort it takes to start, the more likely you are to keep going. This is how momentum becomes a natural part of your life. It's not something you have to force, it's something you create through consistent, intentional action. Another aspect of momentum is celebrating small wins along the way. Every step forward, no matter how small, should be acknowledged. When you're working toward a big goal, it's easy to get caught up in the end result, but it's the small victories that keep the momentum going. Celebrate each milestone, whether it's finishing a chapter of a book or getting through a tough workout. Acknowledge your progress. This reinforces the idea that action leads to results, and that fuels further action. Momentum is contagious. It grows as you recognize it, as you reward yourself for making progress. Let's also talk about something a bit deeper. Belief. Your belief in your ability to create momentum is a huge part of making it happen. If you don't believe that small actions can lead to big results, it's easy to get discouraged and lose steam. But once you start to see that the little steps add up, it builds your confidence. It builds your belief in yourself. The more you take action, the more you'll see what's possible, and that belief becomes a powerful force that propels you even further. Finally, let's consider the power of starting small. Sometimes we think that to build momentum, we need to dive in head first with a massive task, but that's not always the case. Small, manageable actions are the perfect way to get started. Starting small doesn't mean starting weak, it means starting smart. You don't need to make huge leaps. You just need to make that first move, and the rest will follow. Momentum is a cumulative force, and every small step you take adds to it. When you understand momentum and how it works, you realize that the hardest part of any task isn't the work itself. It's starting. Once you begin, you tap into an energy that propels you forward. Momentum is what gets you out of bed when you'd rather stay under the covers. It's what keeps you going even when you feel like quitting. The science of momentum is real, and once you learn to harness it, you'll be unstoppable. The secret isn't waiting for motivation to find you. It's about taking that first step, building on it, and allowing the momentum to carry you toward your goals. Keep moving, keep pushing, and watch as your momentum carries you further than you ever thought possible. Chapter 5: Harnessing the Power of Visualization. It's not just some woo-woo feel-good idea. It's a technique that has been used by top athletes, successful entrepreneurs, and high achievers for decades. When you truly understand the power of visualization and learn how to use it effectively, you'll find that it can unlock doors you didn't even know were there. At its core, visualization is about mentally rehearsing the actions and outcomes you want to achieve. It's not about wishful thinking or imagining something happening without doing the work. It's about creating a clear mental image of your desired outcome and then aligning your actions with that vision. The brain doesn't differentiate between something vividly imagined and something that's actually happening. So when you visualize yourself succeeding, your brain begins to wire itself to make that success a reality. In essence, you're training your mind to see opportunities, develop resilience, and move toward your goals with confidence. Let's break this down a bit further. Imagine you're an athlete preparing for a big game or competition. You can't always practice in real life every single moment of the day, but by visualizing yourself performing at your best, your brain becomes conditioned for success. You can picture yourself running that perfect race, executing every move with precision, or even handling the pressure with grace. The more you visualize, the more you prepare yourself for success. The mind begins to believe that these actions are possible, which boosts confidence and primes you for the real thing. But visualization isn't limited to athletes. This technique can be used in virtually any area of life, whether it's starting a business, making a career change, or improving relationships. The key is to picture yourself already in the place where you want to be. Imagine yourself achieving your goals with all the sights, sounds, and emotions that would come with it. What does success look like for you? What does it feel like to be in the exact spot you've been working so hard for? This is more than just daydreaming. It's about creating a blueprint for success in your mind that your actions can follow. Now let's talk about how you can use visualization in a practical way. The first step is to make it a daily habit. It's not enough to visualize once and expect results. This needs to become part of your routine, like brushing your teeth or exercising. Find a quiet space where you can focus for a few minutes every day, preferably when your mind is calm. Close your eyes, take a few deep breaths, and begin to vividly imagine yourself in the situation you desire. Picture it in as much detail as possible. What are you wearing? Who's around you? What are you hearing? The more details you can add, the more powerful your visualization becomes. In these moments, allow yourself to feel the emotions tied to your success. Feel the pride, the excitement, the satisfaction of accomplishing your goal. The more you tap into those emotions, the more you start to wire your brain for success. You begin to feel as though it's not just possible, but inevitable. Your mind becomes conditioned to expect success, and your actions will follow suit. This isn't about trying to make things happen magically. It's about aligning your thoughts, emotions, and actions so that they work together harmoniously. The next part of visualization is seeing yourself overcoming obstacles. It's easy to visualize the easy, perfect moments. But true preparation comes when you imagine yourself handling setbacks and challenges with resilience. What happens when things don't go according to plan? Visualizing yourself overcoming difficulties helps train your mind to stay calm and focused when those inevitable obstacles show up in real life. This is about making sure your mind is prepared for all possibilities, not just the smooth ride to success. A crucial part of visualization is making sure it's backed up by action. The mistake many people make is thinking that simply visualizing their goals is enough to make them happen. Visualization isn't a replacement for hard work, it's a tool to enhance your efforts. When you visualize, you're not only creating a mental picture of success, but also fueling your motivation to take the necessary steps to make it happen. You can't just sit back and wait for your dreams to come true. You have to get up and take action. Visualization works best when paired with a clear plan and consistent effort. It primes your mind to recognize opportunities and overcome setbacks, but it's your actions that bring the vision to life. Visualization also has a way of building confidence. When you can see yourself succeeding, it becomes easier to take risks and push through fears. Often the biggest barrier to success is self-doubt. But by visualizing yourself already in the place where you want to be, you start to believe that it's possible. You're no longer imagining something distant and unattainable, you're seeing it as part of your reality. And when your mind believes it's possible, your actions become aligned with that belief. Let's take a moment to think about why visualization is so effective. It's because the brain responds to repetition. When you consistently visualize yourself succeeding, your brain starts to form new neural pathways. These pathways help reinforce the actions and behaviors needed to reach your goal. Essentially, you're reprogramming your mind to make success feel normal. When you approach challenges, your brain already has a blueprint to follow. It's like having a map in front of you that leads straight to your destination. The more you visualize, the more your brain strengthens those pathways and makes them more easily accessible. One of the most important things to remember when it comes to visualization is that it requires patience. It's not a quick fix, and it's not magic. It's a practice that takes time. You won't wake up tomorrow and suddenly feel like you've mastered the art of visualization, but the key is consistency. Stick with it. Just like any new habit, it takes time for your mind to adjust and build the neural pathways that lead to success. But the more you visualize and connect with your goal, the more ingrained the process becomes. And when you're consistent, you'll start to see the results. As you continue to use visualization, don't be afraid to adjust your picture as you go. Sometimes, we get stuck in an idea of success that doesn't quite fit anymore. As you grow, your goals may evolve. That's perfectly okay. Keep visualizing what feels right for you, and allow your mental image to shift with your growth. Visualization is not a static process. It's dynamic, just like you. The more you engage with it, the more refined and aligned your vision will become. Finally, visualization isn't just about the big long-term goals. It can be used for the smaller, everyday victories too. Maybe you have a tough conversation coming up or a presentation you're nervous about. Visualization can help you mentally prepare and rehearse for these moments so you can approach them with confidence and poise. The more you use visualization in your daily life, the more you'll see its impact on both your big and small goals. At the end of the day, visualization is a tool, a powerful one that helps you align your mind with your actions. It primes you for success, sharpens your focus, and fuels your determination. It's about seeing the life you want, feeling the emotions tied to that life, and taking the actions necessary to make it a reality. When you use visualization consistently, it becomes a cornerstone of your success. It transforms the impossible into the possible. So take a moment, close your eyes, and start picturing the life you want. The more clearly you see it, the more likely you are to make it real. Chapter 6. Changing your identity to align with action. If you want to make lasting changes in your life, there's one thing you need to understand. You are not your current habits. You are not your past mistakes or failures. You are not the person who procrastinates or holds back when it's time to take action. The truth is, we often think of our actions as being separate from who we are, but in reality, the two are deeply connected. Our identity, the way we see ourselves, the stories we tell ourselves about who we are, shapes the way we act. And if we want to make real, lasting change, we need to start by changing our identity. We need to align who we believe ourselves to be with the actions we want to take. When you think about it, every action you take is a reflection of your identity. If you see yourself as a person who exercises regularly, you're more likely to make time for the gym and stick to your fitness routine. If you identify as a writer, sitting down to write becomes a natural part of your day. On the other hand, if you see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline or who always puts things off, your actions will follow suit. So, in order to take consistent action toward your goals, you first need to shift the way you view yourself. One of the most common reasons people don't take action is because they feel like they're just not the kind of person who does the things they want to do. Maybe you've thought to yourself, I'm just not disciplined enough, or I could never be the kind of person who wakes up early to work on their goals. These thoughts are incredibly powerful because they reinforce your current identity and as a result, keep you stuck. But what if you could change that? What if you could start to see yourself as the kind of person who takes action, who pushes past resistance, and who gets things done? That shift in identity could be the catalyst you need to start taking consistent, meaningful action. The key to making this shift is to start small. It doesn't happen overnight, but it's possible if you take the right steps. Think about a person who wants to get fit, but has never worked out regularly before. If they start by identifying themselves as someone who's out of shape and not athletic, they're going to struggle to get started. But if they begin by telling themselves, I'm the kind of person who takes care of my health, they're beginning to adopt a new identity. And once that shift happens, it becomes easier to take actions that align with that identity. Maybe they start with a short walk or a simple home workout. At first it might feel uncomfortable or foreign, but as they continue, their identity as a healthy person becomes more solidified. It's no longer about forcing themselves to take action, it's simply who they are. The same principle applies to every area of your life. If you want to be more productive, you need to start seeing yourself as a productive person. If you want to be more creative, you need to start identifying as a creative person. When you start to view yourself through the lens of your desired outcome, your behavior will begin to change to match. It's a powerful way to take control of your actions and make progress toward your goals. But changing your identity isn't as simple as just saying, I'm a disciplined person, and hoping it will stick. It takes consistency. It takes practice. It takes showing up for yourself every day, even when it's hard. It's about proving to yourself that you are the person you want to be through your actions, not just your words. Every time you take action in alignment with your new identity, you reinforce it. And with each action you make it stronger. Eventually it becomes second nature. This process also involves letting go of the limiting beliefs that have held you back in the past. If you've spent years telling yourself that you're not good enough or that you'll never be successful, that's the identity you've been operating under. But those beliefs are just stories you've been telling yourself, and they can be rewritten. You have the power to let go of the old narrative and replace it with a new one that supports your growth and your ability to take action. One of the most effective ways to change your identity is through repetition. The more you show up and take action, the more you prove to yourself that this new identity is real. The key is consistency. It's not about being perfect, it's about being persistent. It's about creating small wins that build up over time. As you start to consistently take action, you'll find that your old self-image starts to shift. You begin to see yourself as someone who gets things done, who takes initiative, and who doesn't wait for motivation to show up before taking action. But there's a deeper level to this process. Changing your identity isn't just about shifting your thoughts and actions, it's about shifting your core beliefs. At the heart of it, you need to believe that you are worthy of success, that you have the ability to achieve your goals, and that you are capable of taking the actions necessary to get there. If you don't believe these things at a deep level, your actions will always be in conflict with your true beliefs. That's why it's so important to work on both your thoughts and your beliefs, because they are the foundation of your identity. You might be wondering, how do I actually change these beliefs? The first step is to become aware of them, Pay attention to the stories you tell yourself about who you are and what you're capable of. Are they supportive of your goals, or are they holding you back? Once you identify the limiting beliefs, you can begin to challenge them. Ask yourself, is this belief really true? Where's the evidence for it? What's another way I could think about this? As you start to question these old beliefs, you can replace them with new, empowering ones that align with your desired identity. It's also helpful to surround yourself with people who support your growth and who can help you see yourself in a new light. If you're surrounded by people who reinforce your old identity, people who say, "You've always been like this," or "You can't change now," it becomes much harder to shift. But if you surround yourself with people who believe in your potential and encourage you to take action, it becomes easier to adopt that new identity for yourself. Another powerful tool in shifting your identity is visualization. When you close your eyes and picture yourself as the person you want to become, you're sending a powerful message to your subconscious mind. Visualization helps you feel the emotions tied to your new identity, which makes it easier to step into that identity in real life. The more vividly you can imagine yourself as the person you want to be, the more real it becomes to you. Visualization is like a mental rehearsal, where you practice being the person you want to become before you actually step into that role in real life. As you begin to shift your identity, it's important to stay patient with yourself. Changing your self-image takes time. It's a process of gradual transformation, not an overnight miracle. But as long as you keep taking small actions and reinforcing your new identity, you will start to see real change. The key is persistence. The more you show up as the person you want to become, the more natural it will feel. And soon enough, taking action will no longer feel like a struggle. It will simply be who you are. Remember, the power to change your life lies in the way you see yourself. If you want to take consistent action toward your goals, you need to start by changing the way you think about who you are. Begin by seeing yourself as the person who takes action, who shows up, and who achieves success. And as you take those small steps toward aligning your actions with your new identity, you'll find that the person you've always wanted to become is already inside you. You just needed to believe in them and start acting like it. Chapter 7. The importance of daily habits. It's easy to think that success comes from those big life-changing moments, the breakthroughs, the epiphanies, the sudden bursts of motivation. But the truth is, success is built one day at a time. It's not the extraordinary things you do once in a while that make the difference. It's the small, consistent actions you take every single day. If you want to see real progress, if you want to achieve something meaningful, you need to focus on developing habits that support your long-term vision. Daily habits are the foundation upon which everything else is built. They shape your life in ways that are so subtle, yet so profound, you may not even realize the impact they're having until years down the road. Think about it. When you wake up each morning, you follow a series of habits, whether you're aware of them or not. You brush your teeth, you check your phone, you eat breakfast. Some of these habits are positive and help you start your day on the right foot, while others might be less productive or even detrimental. The question is, are your daily habits aligned with the life you want to create? Building good habits doesn't require a grand gesture. You don't need to make a massive change overnight or completely overhaul your routine. What's important is starting small and being consistent. In fact, trying to do too much at once can backfire. It's better to focus on one small habit at a time and stick to it than to overwhelm yourself with a long list of changes you can't maintain. The beauty of habits is that once they're in place, they become automatic. You no longer have to think about them. They just happen. And over time, those small automatic actions compound, leading to big results. It's tempting to believe that the big move is what makes all the difference, but it's the steady progress made through daily habits that will get you there. Consider someone who wants to improve their fitness. They might start by setting a goal to work out for an hour every day. At first, that sounds like a lot of work, and maybe they start with enthusiasm, but eventually, the initial burst of motivation fades. They get busy, they make excuses, and soon enough, they've fallen off track. But imagine if, instead of focusing on a big all-or-nothing goal, they focused on something small and manageable. What if they just committed to moving for 15 minutes a day? That's a habit they can stick with, no matter how busy life gets. And over time, those 15-minute workouts will add up. Slowly but surely, their fitness improves, and the habit becomes ingrained. Once it becomes automatic, they can increase the time or intensity as they see fit. This is the power of daily habits. They don't require dramatic effort, but they have a dramatic effect. The key is consistency. It's about showing up day after day, even when you don't feel like it. Even when life gets in the way. Even when you're tired or distracted. The more you stick to your habits, the more you prove to yourself that you can be trusted to take action, even when the initial motivation fades. And when that happens, you start building momentum. Momentum is everything. Once you've built a habit, it's easier to keep going. It's like pushing a boulder up a hill. It's tough at first, but once you get it rolling, it starts to gain speed. The same goes for your habits. At first, it may feel like a struggle. You might question whether it's worth it. But when you keep showing up, you begin to see the results. And once you see the results, you become more motivated to continue. It's a beautiful cycle. Action leads to results. Results lead to motivation, and motivation leads to more action. And all of this is built on the foundation of your daily habits. But how do you know which habits to focus on? The answer lies in your goals. Ask yourself, what do you want to achieve? If you want to write a book, then daily writing habits are essential. If you want to get in better shape, then daily movement and exercise are key. If you want to build a successful business, then daily work on your projects, and consistently learning and growing in your field will be necessary. Your habits should be directly aligned with your long-term vision. It's important to remember that habits aren't just about the actions you take, they're also about the mindset you cultivate. A habit is more than a behavior, it's a reflection of who you are becoming. When you commit to building positive habits, you're telling yourself that you are the kind of person who takes care of themselves, who is disciplined, and who is willing to do the work necessary to achieve their dreams. Every time you show up for your habits, you're reinforcing that identity. And that identity will, over time, become the person you are. Another powerful aspect of daily habits is their ability to help you overcome resistance. We all face resistance when it comes to taking action. Whether it's fear, procrastination, or just plain laziness, the urge to avoid doing the work is always there. But when you have a habit in place, it's much easier to push through that resistance. Why? Because you're not thinking about whether or not you feel like doing it. You're simply showing up and doing it because it's part of your routine. Habits remove the need for decision-making. They take away the mental energy required to talk yourself into taking action. When you make your habits automatic, you don't have to rely on motivation or willpower to get started. You just do it. But what if you don't feel like doing your habits some days? What if life gets in the way, or you're just feeling drained? It's important to allow yourself some flexibility. Not every day will be perfect. There will be days when you miss a workout, skip a writing session, or don't get as much done as you hoped. That's okay. The key is not to let those days derail your progress. If you miss a day, don't beat yourself up. Just get back on track the next day. The real power of habits lies in their consistency over time, not in your ability to be perfect every single day. When you're building habits, it's also crucial to celebrate the small wins. Every time you stick to your habits, no matter how small the action, you've achieved something. Give yourself credit for showing up and doing the work. This positive reinforcement will help you stay motivated and build momentum. And over time, you'll start to see how the small habits you've developed are contributing to your larger goals. Building daily habits is a journey, and it's a journey that requires patience. It's easy to want instant results, but the most meaningful progress happens slowly and steadily. It's about the process, not the outcome. And if you focus on the daily habits that are aligned with your goals, and you show up for them day after day, you'll be amazed at how far you can go. Small actions, repeated consistently, create massive results. So start with one small habit today, and keep building on it. And before you know it, those habits will become the foundation of the life you've always dreamed of. Chapter 8. Breaking the Chains of Self-Doubt. Self-doubt is a quiet enemy, creeping into our thoughts when we least expect it. It shows up when we're about to take on something new, when we're about to step outside of our comfort zones, or when we face failure or rejection. It tells us that we're not good enough, not worthy, not capable of achieving our goals. It's a voice that constantly undermines our potential and keeps us from moving forward. But here's the truth. Self-doubt is not who you are. It's simply a habit of thinking that you can unlearn. And once you break free from it, you'll realize just how much more you're capable of than you ever imagined. First, let's be clear about one thing. Self-doubt is completely normal. Everyone feels it at some point. Whether you're an entrepreneur, an artist, a student, or anyone with big dreams, self-doubt will try to convince you that you're not cut out for success. It's part of the human experience. But that doesn't mean it has to control your life. In fact, the key to overcoming self-doubt is realizing that you don't have to eliminate it entirely. It's not about being 100% confident all the time, because that's unrealistic. It's about taking action in spite of your doubts and moving forward, even when you're not sure of the outcome. Self-doubt often comes from fear, the fear of failure, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of judgment from others. We're conditioned to worry about what people think, to fear the possibility of not measuring up. But here's the thing about fear. It's usually much more powerful in our minds than it is in reality. When you confront your fear, when you face it head-on, you'll often find that the things you feared weren't as terrifying as you thought. In fact, many of the most successful people in the world have learned to embrace fear as a sign that they're pushing beyond their limits. It's a sign that they're growing, evolving, and taking on new challenges. The first step to breaking the chains of self-doubt is to recognize that it's not a reflection of your abilities, it's just a thought. And like any other thought, you have the power to change it. Instead of letting your doubts dictate your actions, begin to challenge them. When you catch yourself thinking, "I'm not good enough for this," or "I'll never be able to do it," pause for a moment. Ask yourself, is this thought really true? Have I ever proven to myself that I can't do it? Chances are, you've had moments in your life where you've succeeded, where you've overcome obstacles, where you've proven that you are capable of more than you thought. Those moments are the evidence that self-doubt is nothing more than a story you're telling yourself. You don't need to wait for self-doubt to disappear completely before you take action. In fact, you'll find that the more you take action in spite of your doubts, the less power they have over you. Every time you push through your fear and do the thing you're afraid of, you weaken the grip that self-doubt has on you. You create a new belief in yourself that you can handle whatever comes your way. And as you continue to take action, you'll start to see results. Those results, no matter how small, will begin to shift your mindset. The more you experience success, the more your self-doubt will shrink, because you'll have proof that you are capable. Another powerful way to break free from self-doubt is to shift your focus from the outcome to the process. Often, we doubt ourselves because we're so focused on the end result, on the idea of success or failure. But what if we shifted our focus to the daily actions we can take? What if we just committed to showing up, doing the work, and letting go of the need to control everything? When you focus on the process, you release the pressure to get everything right. You stop worrying about whether you'll succeed or fail, and instead, you just focus on taking one step at a time. In order to shift your focus, it's also important to develop a growth mindset. A growth mindset is the belief that your abilities are not fixed, that you can always improve, learn and grow. This mindset is the antidote to self-doubt because it encourages you to see challenges as opportunities for growth rather than threats to your self-worth. With a growth mindset, failure becomes a stepping stone, not something to fear. It's simply part of the learning process. And when you embrace this mindset, you'll stop doubting yourself and start seeing every setback as an opportunity to learn and improve. Building confidence is another crucial part of overcoming self-doubt. Confidence doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect conditions. It comes from taking action and proving to yourself that you are capable. When you take small, consistent steps toward your goals, you build trust in your ability to succeed. Each time you follow through on your commitments, you reinforce the belief that you can do hard things. And over time, this builds momentum. Confidence is like a muscle. You have to exercise it regularly in order for it to grow stronger. One of the most effective ways to build confidence is to surround yourself with positive influences. The people you spend time with can have a huge impact on your mindset. If you're constantly surrounded by negative or critical people who feed into your self-doubt, it's much harder to break free from those chains. On the other hand, if you surround yourself with people who uplift you, encourage you, and believe in your potential, you'll find that your confidence grows. Seek out mentors, friends, or communities that support your growth and remind you of your strengths. It's also helpful to practice self-compassion. We often criticize ourselves when we fall short or make mistakes, but that only reinforces the cycle of self-doubt. Instead, treat yourself with kindness and understanding. Recognize that you're human and that it's okay to stumble along the way. The key is to learn from those moments, not to beat yourself up for them. When you practice self-compassion, you'll find that you're more resilient and less likely to be bogged down by self-doubt. Ultimately, breaking the chains of self-doubt comes down to taking action. Every time you take action, even in the face of fear, you show yourself that you are capable. You begin to shift your mindset from one of doubt to one of belief. And as you continue to take consistent action, you'll find that self-doubt no longer has the same power over you. It may still show up from time to time, but you'll know how to move through it. You'll know that it's just a passing thought, not a reflection of your true potential. And you'll keep moving forward, step by step, toward the life you're meant to live. Chapter 9. Taking responsibility for your results. We live in a world that often encourages us to look outside ourselves for explanations, for reasons why things aren't going the way we want. It's easy to point fingers, blame the economy, blame our upbringing, blame the people around us, or even blame bad luck. But the truth is, the moment we take full responsibility for our results is the moment we take back control over our lives. Responsibility isn't about assigning fault or guilt. It's about acknowledging that we have the power to shape our own outcomes. It's about accepting that while we can't control everything, we are in control of how we respond to what happens to us and the choices we make along the way. It's easy to slip into a victim mindset, especially when life gets tough. It feels comforting to tell ourselves that things are out of our hands or that circumstances are the reason for our struggles. But when we adopt this mindset, we give away our power. We place our happiness, our success, and our future in the hands of things we cannot control. The problem is, when we believe that external factors are responsible for our situation, we deny ourselves the ability to change our situation. We become passive participants in our own lives. And that's not how anyone should live. Taking responsibility doesn't mean you're to blame for everything that goes wrong in your life. It doesn't mean you've made every mistake, nor does it mean you've caused every setback. What it does mean is that you're acknowledging the role you play in shaping your circumstances. You're recognizing that your actions, your choices, and your mindset all contribute to the results you get. Even if something is outside your control, your reaction to it is always your choice. You can choose how you respond to challenges, how you learn from setbacks, and how you continue to push forward. Taking responsibility gives you the power to shape your future, instead of letting your past control you. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop blaming others for where you are in life. Sure, other people may have played a role in your circumstances, whether it's your upbringing, your job, or the relationships you're in, but at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide how you want to respond. If you continue to blame others, you're essentially giving them the power to control your life. And that's not a position of strength. But when you take ownership of your results, you place yourself back in the driver's seat. You acknowledge that you can't change the past, but you can certainly change the future with the actions you take right now. This is the mindset of someone who is committed to self-improvement and success. They own their results, good or bad. They don't wait for someone else to fix things for them, nor do they make excuses for why things aren't working out. They look at each situation and ask themselves, what can I do differently? What action can I take today to move me closer to where I want to be? This is where true power lies, in the ability to choose what happens next. For many people, the most difficult part of taking responsibility is acknowledging the ways in which they've been passive or complacent. It's not always easy to admit that we've been part of the problem, or that we haven't been doing all we can to improve our situation. But self-awareness is the key to change. When you take an honest look at your life, you can begin to see the areas where you've been holding yourself back. Maybe you've been avoiding difficult conversations or letting fear stop you from pursuing your goals. Maybe you've been procrastinating or making excuses about why now isn't the right time to take action. It's painful to admit these things, but doing so is the first step toward taking full responsibility for your results. And once you've recognized where you've been holding back, you can begin to take action to change it. Taking responsibility also means you need to stop waiting for the perfect circumstances to take action. It's easy to think that if only things were different, if only you had more time, more money, or a different job, then you could start making progress. But the truth is, the perfect time never comes. There will always be challenges, distractions, and obstacles. But rather than waiting for everything to align perfectly, take responsibility for the resources you have right now. You have time, even if it's just a few minutes here and there. You have talents, experiences, and strengths that can be leveraged today. Stop waiting for permission or for the right moment. Take action now, in whatever way you can, and make the most of the circumstances you find yourself in. It's also crucial to recognize that taking responsibility doesn't mean doing everything on your own. In fact, it often requires the humility to ask for help when needed. This doesn't diminish your power, it enhances it. No one achieves success in isolation. You need to surround yourself with the right people, those who inspire you, challenge you, and support you along the way. Taking responsibility means seeking out the help you need to grow, whether it's through mentorship, education, or collaboration. Don't let your ego stand in the way of your progress. If you need help, ask for it. That's part of taking ownership over your journey. The beauty of taking responsibility for your results is that it empowers you to make real, lasting change. When you stop looking outside of yourself for answers and start looking inward, you begin to realize how much power you truly have. You can't change the things that happen to you, but you can change how you respond to them. You can choose your attitude, your actions, and your perspective. You can decide whether you let obstacles define you or whether you let them fuel your growth. When you take responsibility, you own your power to create the future you want. It's in your hands. But it's not always easy. There will be times when it feels overwhelming or when the results aren't coming fast enough. There will be moments of doubt, frustration, and fear, and in those moments, it's easy to fall back into the habit of blaming external factors. But if you commit to taking responsibility, you'll find that the strength to keep going comes from within. When you know that you are the one in control of your life, even the hardest moments become opportunities for growth. Challenges don't have the power to stop you. You do. So start today. Take responsibility for where you are right now, and take ownership of where you want to go. Acknowledge the choices you've made, both good and bad, and realize that you are always in control of what happens next. Don't wait for someone else to fix things. Don't blame circumstances or the people around you. Instead, take charge. Your future is waiting for you, and it's yours to shape. Every action you take today is one step closer to the life you want. It's time to stop waiting and start doing. Take responsibility for your results and watch your life change. Chapter 10. Building Resilience Through Rejection. Rejection can feel like a personal attack. When you put yourself out there, whether it's for a job, a relationship, or an idea you believe in, and you get turned down, it can sting. It can make you question your worth, your abilities, and even your entire path in life. But here's the thing. Rejection isn't the end. In fact, it's often the beginning of something even better. Rejection is not something to fear, but something to embrace. It's a powerful tool that, when approached with the right mindset, can help you build resilience and become stronger than ever. Think about it. Every person you admire, every successful person, has faced rejection in some form. It's part of the process. The most successful people didn't get to where they are without experiencing setbacks, challenges, and countless rejections. The difference between those who succeed and those who give up is how they respond to rejection. The successful ones don't let it define them. They use it as fuel to keep moving forward, to improve, and to push even harder toward their goals. The first step in building resilience through rejection is to understand that rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's easy to take rejection personally, to let it affect how you view yourself. But the truth is, rejection often has nothing to do with you at all. It's about timing, fit, circumstances, or simply the fact that the other person or opportunity wasn't the right one for you. When you start to separate your sense of self-worth from the outcome, rejection becomes just another part of the journey. It's not an indicator of failure, it's an opportunity to learn, grow, and refine your approach. Rejection is also a reminder that we are all human. No one is immune to it. Everyone, at some point, faces rejection. The key is to not let it discourage you or stop you from trying again. The world's most successful people have all faced rejection, but they've learned how to use it as a stepping stone to greater things. Michael Jordan, for example, was cut from his high school basketball team. J.K. Rowling's first Harry Potter book was rejected by 12 publishers before it found its home. Steve Jobs was fired from his own company. The stories of rejection are endless, and yet they're all stories of people who refused to let rejection define their future. They understood that rejection was not the end, but a necessary part of the journey. The next step in building resilience through rejection is to reframe your perspective. Instead of seeing rejection as a failure, try to see it as a learning experience. When you get rejected, ask yourself what you can learn from it. What could you have done differently? What could you improve? This doesn't mean beating yourself up or being overly critical. It's about constructive reflection. Take note of what worked, what didn't, and how you can improve next time. Every rejection offers valuable feedback, whether direct or indirect, that can help you grow. In fact, failure and rejection are some of the best teachers. They force you to look inward, to develop new skills, and to refine your approach. When you approach rejection as a learning opportunity, it becomes a tool for personal growth, not a roadblock. Building resilience through rejection also means getting comfortable with discomfort. Rejection doesn't feel good, and that's okay. It's natural to feel disappointed, hurt, or frustrated when things don't go your way. But here's the secret: growth doesn't happen in comfort. You don't build strength by avoiding difficult situations or running away from discomfort. You build strength by facing those situations head-on, feeling the discomfort, and learning how to move through it. The more you face rejection, the easier it becomes to handle. You start to realize that rejection is just a temporary feeling, a moment that will pass. And with each rejection you experience, you build the emotional strength and resilience to keep going. Another important part of building resilience through rejection is developing a strong sense of purpose. When you're deeply connected to your why, rejection becomes just a small obstacle on the road to achieving your goals. It's much easier to handle rejection when you know exactly what you're working toward and why it matters to you. When your purpose is clear and compelling, rejection doesn't shake your resolve. It's just a detour, not a dead end. The clearer your purpose, the more resilient you become, because you have a bigger vision that keeps you moving forward, no matter how many times you're told no. In addition to purpose, resilience comes from developing mental toughness. Mental toughness is the ability to persevere in the face of adversity, to keep pushing forward even when things get tough. It's not about being immune to rejection or failure, it's about how you respond to them. Mental toughness means getting back up every time you fall, keeping your eyes on the prize, and refusing to let setbacks keep you down. It's about having the determination to keep going, even when things aren't going your way. You can build mental toughness by setting small goals, taking consistent action, and staying focused on the process rather than the outcome. Each time you face rejection and bounce back, you become mentally tougher. One of the most powerful ways to build resilience through rejection is to cultivate a mindset of gratitude. This might sound counterintuitive. Why would you be grateful for rejection? But the truth is, rejection often leads to better opportunities. It's a redirection. Maybe that job you didn't get wasn't the right fit, but the next one will be. Maybe that relationship that ended was clearing the path for a healthier one to come into your life. Gratitude helps you see the bigger picture. It helps you recognize that rejection is often a blessing in disguise. When you can appreciate the lessons that rejection brings, you strengthen your resilience and shift your mindset from one of lack to one of abundance. You realize that each rejection is simply preparing you for something greater. Finally, remember that resilience is built over time. It's not something you develop overnight. It's the result of consistently choosing to move forward even when it's hard. It's the result of taking every setback, every rejection, and using it to fuel your growth. Resilience is a muscle that gets stronger the more you use it. And like any muscle, it takes time and effort to build. But with every rejection you face and every challenge you overcome, you become more resilient. You become someone who refuses to be defeated, someone who sees obstacles as opportunities, and someone who believes in their ability to succeed, no matter how many times they're knocked down. In the end, rejection is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It's a vital part of the process, and it's a tool that will help you build the strength, resilience, and perseverance you need to achieve your goals. The next time you face rejection, instead of letting it defeat you, let it fuel you. Learn from it, grow from it, and use it as a stepping stone toward your ultimate success. Rejection is not the end of your journey, it's simply a chapter in the story of your success. And every rejection you face brings you one step closer to the life you're meant to live. Chapter 11. Time Management Mastery. We rush through our days, juggling endless tasks, trying to squeeze everything into our packed schedules. We look at the clock, realize how much we still need to do, and wonder how we'll possibly get it all done. But the truth is, time isn't what we're actually struggling with. It's how we manage it. Time management isn't about trying to control every minute of your day. It's about prioritizing what matters most and using your time more intentionally. Most of us waste time without even realizing it. We spend hours scrolling through social media, binge-watching shows, or getting caught up in distractions that don't bring us any closer to our goals. And while those things aren't inherently bad, they can quickly add up to hours lost that we'll never get back. The key to time management is not about squeezing more into your day, it's about getting more out of the time you have. It's about being intentional with your actions, making conscious choices, and aligning your time with your priorities. The first step in mastering time management is recognizing that not all tasks are created equal. We often spend a lot of time on things that feel urgent but aren't truly important. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of email responses, meetings, or errands that seem pressing in the moment, but don't move the needle in terms of our bigger goals. If you want to manage your time effectively, you need to identify what matters most and focus on those things first. This might mean saying no to things that aren't aligned with your vision, or making tough choices about where you spend your energy. But when you focus on what's truly important, you'll find that you make better use of your time and you feel a greater sense of fulfillment. Once you've identified your priorities, the next step is to create a daily structure that supports them. Time management is not about rigid schedules or micromanaging every minute. It's about creating a framework that helps you stay focused and productive. Start by setting clear goals for the day. Write them down. Visualize what success looks like for you. These goals don't have to be big. They can be small, achievable steps toward a larger vision. The key is to be specific. Instead of saying, "I'll work on my book today," say, "I'll write 500 words today." When your goals are clear and measurable, they're much easier to focus on and complete. Next, consider blocking your time into chunks. Research shows that humans can only maintain deep focus for about 90 minutes at a time, so it's helpful to break your day into focused blocks of time with breaks in between. For example, you might work for an hour and then take a 10-minute break to stretch or walk around. This not only prevents burnout, but it also keeps your mind sharp and ready for the next task. During those blocks of time, eliminate distractions. Turn off your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and create an environment where you can fully concentrate on the task at hand. The more you can immerse yourself in deep work, the more productive and effective you'll be. A big part of time management is learning how to say no. It's easy to get caught up in other people's requests or demands, but if they don't align with your goals, they're stealing your time. Saying no can be difficult, especially when you don't want to let people down, but it's one of the most important skills you can develop if you want to manage your time effectively. Saying no doesn't mean being rude or dismissive. It means being clear about your priorities and protecting your time. When you say no to things that don't move you toward your goals, you say yes to the things that truly matter. Another key element of effective time management is planning ahead. Each night, take a few minutes to review your schedule for the next day. What tasks do you need to complete? What meetings do you have? What deadlines are approaching? When you have a clear plan in place, it's easier to stay focused and avoid unnecessary stress. Planning also helps you anticipate challenges or obstacles, so you can be prepared for them. It's much easier to handle things when you know what's coming up, rather than scrambling at the last minute. At the same time, it's important to stay flexible. Life happens. Things don't always go according to plan. But when you have a general framework in place, it's easier to adapt when unexpected things come up. Flexibility doesn't mean abandoning your plan. It means being open to adjusting it when needed and staying focused on your overall goals. The best time managers also know when to take a step back and rest. Rest is just as important as work when it comes to managing your time effectively. When you're constantly pushing yourself to do more, you can quickly burn out. Your productivity diminishes and your creativity takes a hit. Taking regular breaks, getting enough sleep, and allowing yourself time to recharge are all essential to staying at your best. Time management isn't just about getting more done, it's about ensuring that you have the energy and focus to do it well. So don't neglect your need for rest. It's an investment in your long-term productivity and well-being. One of the most powerful tools for time management is tracking your time. It might sound tedious, but once you start paying attention to where your time is going, you'll be amazed at how much of it gets wasted. For a week or two, track every activity you do. Write down how much time you spend on work, on leisure, on errands, on social media, and so on. At the end of the week, take a look at how your time is distributed. Are you spending too much time on things that aren't bringing you closer to your goals? Are there areas where you could cut back to free up more time for what matters? Time tracking can help you become more aware of your habits, identify areas for improvement, and make adjustments accordingly. Be kind to yourself. Time management is a skill, and like any skill, it takes practice to master. Don't expect perfection, and don't beat yourself up if things don't always go as planned. If you slip up, simply course correct and move forward. The key is consistency. The more you practice intentional time management, the more natural it becomes, and the more you'll see its positive impact on your life. In the end, time is the one resource you can never get back. Once it's gone, it's gone. But by managing your time effectively, you can make the most of every day. You can achieve your goals, reduce stress, and feel a greater sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. Time management isn't about squeezing every last drop out of your day. It's about using your time wisely, staying focused on what matters most, and creating a life that aligns with your priorities. When you take control of your time, you take control of your life. And that is one of the most empowering things you can do. Chapter 12. The 80-20th Principle. Focus on what matters. The 80-20th Principle, also known as the Pareto Principle, is one of the most powerful concepts in personal growth and productivity. The basic idea is that 80% of your results come from 20% of your efforts. At first glance, this might seem a little counterintuitive. After all, shouldn't we be focusing on the 80%? Isn't that the majority? But here's the catch. Those 20% of actions are the ones that are truly driving the outcomes you want. And that's where the magic happens. We tend to get bogged down in the busy work, the endless tasks that seem important at the moment, but don't really move the needle. Whether it's responding to every email that comes in, attending meetings that don't add value, or checking social media updates throughout the day, we often focus on the things that keep us busy but not productive. The 80-20th rule teaches us to zoom out and focus on what really matters, the small fraction of things that lead to the most significant results. Think about it in the context of your goals. Let's say you're working toward writing a book, building a business, or improving your fitness. You might have a laundry list of tasks you think you need to complete. There's always something to do, right? But if you stop for a moment and analyze what you're doing, you'll likely find that only a handful of those tasks are actually creating the progress you're looking for. Maybe writing every day, even just for a short time, is the key to completing your book. Or perhaps making sales calls and marketing your product is what will push your business forward. The rest, the fluff, the distractions, the things that feel urgent but don't lead to progress, can be minimized or even eliminated. This doesn't mean that everything else in your life isn't important. It's simply about focusing on what creates the most impact. You don't need to do everything, you need to do the right things. This principle, when applied, can radically change how you approach your daily routine. You start to shift your energy away from busy work and instead invest it in the activities that truly matter. And the beauty of it is that when you focus on the right 20%, you'll often see a disproportionate amount of success with much less effort. It's like finding the secret formula that unlocks results without burning yourself out. But how do you actually identify the 20%? This is where the real work begins. It requires a level of self-awareness and introspection that many of us don't naturally engage in. It's easy to get caught in the day-to-day rush, responding to every demand that comes your way, reacting to every email, or jumping from one task to another, without ever stopping to consider if any of it is getting you closer to your goals. To apply the 80-20th principle effectively, you have to take a step back and ask yourself which tasks are truly making a difference. Take a good look at your goals and break them down into the tasks required to achieve them. From there, it becomes about identifying the most important actions that contribute the most to your success. In business, for example, this could mean identifying the clients or customers who generate the most revenue, or finding the marketing strategies that yield the highest returns. In personal development, it might involve focusing on the daily habits that lead to growth, like practicing gratitude, exercising, or engaging in focused learning. One of the biggest challenges of the 80-20th rule is learning to say no. There's a temptation to want to do everything, to please everyone, to take on every opportunity that comes your way. But saying yes to everything means you're diluting your energy and focus, you're spreading yourself thin, and in doing so, you're reducing your ability to make significant progress on the things that matter. Learning to say no isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about protecting your energy and your time. It's about recognizing that you can't do it all, and that's okay. In fact, it's necessary. When you begin applying the 80-20th principle, you'll start to realize that a lot of the things you've been spending time on don't need to be prioritized at all, and that's a liberating realization. You no longer have to waste time or energy on things that don't move you toward your goals. Instead, you can focus on the tasks that yield the greatest return. For instance, if you're a writer, perhaps writing a first draft is the 20% that will move your book forward, and editing can come later. If you're trying to lose weight, maybe the 20% of your efforts involves consistently working out a few times a week and tracking your meals, while obsessing over every calorie isn't as productive. One thing that's crucial to understand is that the 80-20th rule isn't always static. It isn't like you just identify the 20% once and you're done. Your 20% will shift over time as your goals and circumstances evolve. What worked for you a few months ago may not be as effective now. This is why it's important to regularly reassess where you're putting your energy and be willing to adapt your focus as necessary. The 80-20th principle isn't just a one-time strategy. It's a mindset, a way of constantly evaluating how your time and effort align with the results you're after. Another powerful aspect of this rule is that it can help you avoid perfectionism. So many people get caught in the trap of trying to do everything perfectly. They spend hours making sure every little detail is just right, when in reality the small things might not matter as much as they think. The key to productivity and progress isn't perfection, it's progress. Perfectionism often paralyzes us, preventing us from moving forward. By applying the 80-20th principle, you can focus on the essential tasks and take action, even if it's not perfect. You'll also begin to see a shift in your mindset as you embrace this way of thinking. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by the sheer number of things you need to do, you'll start to feel a sense of control and clarity. You'll understand that your time is limited, and you don't have to do everything to achieve your dreams. By focusing on the most impactful activities, you'll make faster progress, reduce stress, and start seeing real results. In the end, the 80-20th principle is all about efficiency and effectiveness. It's about making smarter choices, not working harder. By identifying the small number of tasks that will lead to the biggest results, you stop wasting time on things that don't matter, and you start investing your energy where it counts. When you can adopt this mindset and apply it consistently in your life, you'll not only achieve your goals faster, but you'll also feel more focused, productive, and empowered. It's a game changer, and once you experience the power of it, you'll wonder how you ever got by without it. Chapter 13. The Art of Saying No. It sounds simple enough, right? But in a world that often prioritizes people-pleasing, being available for every request, and taking on more than you can handle, saying no can feel like a rebellious act. It feels uncomfortable at first, and often there's a deep-seated fear that we'll disappoint others, seem unkind, or lose out on opportunities. But here's the truth. Learning to say no is one of the most important skills you can cultivate in your journey toward personal growth, focus, and success. When you don't have a clear understanding of your boundaries and the things that truly matter to you, it's easy to get pulled in 100 different directions. Every phone call, every email, every person who asks for your time or energy seems like an opportunity you can't afford to miss. After all, who knows what doors might open if you say yes? But what's often missed in this rush to accommodate everyone else is that every yes you say to something that isn't aligned with your goals, values, or energy is a no to something that truly matters. The first step in learning to say no is acknowledging that your time and energy are limited. You can't be everything to everyone. You can't take on every project, attend every meeting, or respond to every request without sacrificing your own well-being or your long-term goals. The reality is that every choice you make takes you one step closer to the life you want, or one step further away from it. The power to move toward your goals and away from distractions lies in your ability to make intentional choices about where to focus your time. Think about your daily schedule. How often do you fill your calendar with obligations and tasks that don't really serve your bigger picture? Maybe you're attending a meeting that could have been an email, or perhaps you're saying yes to a social gathering you don't really want to attend, but you feel guilty if you decline. In those moments, it's important to stop and ask yourself, is this the best use of my time right now? Will this move me closer to my goals, or will it take me off course? If the answer is no, then it's time to practice saying no. Saying no isn't about being rude or dismissive. It's about protecting your time and your energy so that you can devote them to the things that matter most. It's about saying yes to your priorities, your growth, and your well-being. And yes, sometimes that means saying no to others. But here's the secret: you're not saying no because you don't care about them or their needs. You're saying no because you understand that to give your best to others, you must first honor your own needs and commitments. It's also important to recognize that not every opportunity is the right opportunity. There's a tendency, especially in the early stages of personal growth or career building, to say yes to everything that comes your way, convinced that every opportunity is a stepping stone to something greater. But in reality, not every opportunity is worth your time. In fact, some opportunities can actually take you off course. They might look good on the surface, but if they don't align with your values, your goals, or your long-term vision, they might just be distractions. By saying no to the wrong opportunities, you free yourself up to say yes to the right ones. This isn't always easy. We live in a culture that rewards busyness and constant activity. People who are always available, who jump at every opportunity, are often seen as dedicated or hard-working. But in truth, being constantly busy can be a sign of lack of focus or direction. Saying yes to everything spreads you thin, leaving you with no energy, no time for deep work, and no space to focus on what's truly important. In fact, it's in the quiet moments of focus, in saying no to the noise around you, that the most powerful work gets done. There's also a deeper layer to this. The act of saying no isn't just about protecting your time. It's about setting boundaries, learning to respect yourself, and teaching others to do the same. When you say no, you're essentially telling the world, I know what I want, and I'm willing to stand firm in my decisions. You're teaching people that your time and energy are valuable, and that you won't just give them away without thought. This creates respect, both for yourself and from others. It's important to note that saying no doesn't mean you're being selfish in the negative sense of the word. In fact, saying no can be an act of self-care, because you're choosing to honor your own needs, health, and time. You're prioritizing the things that matter most to you, which ultimately enables you to show up as a better friend, partner, colleague, and person. When you say no, you're not saying no to people, you're saying no to the things that would take you away from your true purpose and direction. As you practice saying no, you'll start to realize how freeing it can be. It can feel strange at first, almost like you're rejecting people or opportunities. But as you build this muscle, you'll find that it becomes easier and easier to make decisions that are in alignment with your goals. You'll stop second-guessing yourself and start trusting your intuition when it comes to choosing how to spend your time. Over time, saying no becomes a way of life, a way to honor your own priorities and avoid the trap of doing things simply because they're expected or convenient. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You might worry about disappointing someone or fear missing out on opportunities. But the truth is, by saying no to the things that don't align with your vision, you make room for the things that do. You give yourself space to work on your most important goals, to nurture your relationships, and to care for your physical and mental well-being. The key is learning to say no with grace and clarity. You don't need to justify every decision, and you don't need to apologize for setting boundaries. A simple, respectful no is enough. And when you say no, it's not about rejecting the person, it's about protecting your time, energy, and focus. In the end, the art of saying no is about learning to prioritize what truly matters. It's about recognizing that every yes you give to something that doesn't serve your goals is a no to something that could. By saying no to distractions and irrelevant demands, you create the space to say yes to the things that will truly move you forward. And when you make that shift, you'll find that not only do you feel more focused and empowered, but you'll also start to see results that reflect the energy you've intentionally invested in what matters most. So start today, learn to say no, and watch how your life transforms. Chapter 14: Mastering Focus in a Distracted World. In today's world, distractions are everywhere. They come in all shapes and sizes, from the constant ping of notifications on your phone to the endless stream of information that floods your screen. The pressure to be always on, always reachable, always doing something is more intense than ever. And yet, in the middle of all this noise, the one skill that can radically transform your productivity, your focus, and ultimately your life is the ability to master focus itself. Focus is a skill that's often overlooked. We tend to think of focus as something we either have or don't have, like a natural talent that some people are just born with. But the truth is, focus can be cultivated, just like any other skill. It's a muscle that, when exercised, grows stronger and more reliable. The more you practice it, the better you get at shutting out distractions and honing in on what matters. But like any muscle, it requires patience and consistent effort. The first step to mastering focus is understanding why it's so difficult in the first place. Our brains were never designed to handle the level of stimulation we experience today. Back in the day, our ancestors didn't have to contend with constant digital interruptions. They weren't receiving dozens of messages from emails, social media, or work notifications every minute. Instead, they were focused on survival, their environment, and the task at hand. Today, we face an environment that's engineered to capture our attention at every turn. The more our attention is pulled in different directions, the harder it becomes to truly focus on any one thing for an extended period. But here's the key: distraction is not the problem. The real problem is how we've allowed distractions to take over our lives. The truth is, you have control over your focus. It's not easy, but it's possible to reclaim that control and use it to your advantage. And the first step is to get intentional about where your attention goes. It's about choosing what you want to focus on and making the conscious decision to block out everything else, at least for a set period of time. One of the most effective ways to sharpen your focus is through the power of intentionality. When you begin any task, ask yourself, what is my goal here? What is the one thing I need to accomplish in this moment? The more specific you can be about your goal, the easier it will be to filter out distractions. Your brain naturally gravitates toward things that are clearly defined, so the more you narrow your focus, the more likely you are to stay on track. Another technique that's incredibly effective for boosting focus is creating rituals and routines. The mind thrives in a structured environment. When you build routines around your tasks, you train your mind to associate certain actions with specific outcomes. For instance, if you want to focus on deep work, create a ritual around it. This could mean setting up a specific space for work, turning off all distractions, and even setting a timer to work for a set period of time, say 45 minutes, followed by a short break. This way, your mind knows what to expect and can settle into the task at hand without unnecessary distractions. Routines are a powerful way to build momentum, and once momentum starts building, focus becomes easier. You're no longer fighting the urge to check your phone or check your email because you've set up a system that helps you stay on track. This is one of the main reasons why so many highly productive people swear by their morning routines or their work blocks of uninterrupted focus. It's not magic. It's about setting the stage for your mind to focus and then committing to the process. One of the hardest challenges in mastering focus is fighting against the constant temptation of multitasking. It's a myth that we can effectively do multiple things at once. The truth is, when we multitask, we're simply switching back and forth between tasks, which means we're actually doing them less efficiently. This constant switching can make us feel like we're being productive, but in reality, we're just spreading our attention too thin. To break free from the trap of multitasking, it's important to commit to focusing on one task at a time. This might sound simple, but in today's world, it's actually quite rare. If you're working on something important, make a commitment to yourself that for the next 30 minutes or whatever time frame works for you, you will focus exclusively on that task. When your mind starts to wander, gently guide it back to the task at hand. Over time, this practice becomes easier, and your ability to stay focused for longer periods will increase. Another thing to keep in mind is that our brains are not designed to be constantly working at full capacity. Focus isn't about pushing yourself to the limit all the time, it's about finding balance. If you push too hard too long, your focus will start to diminish. This is why taking regular breaks is so important. When you take a break, you allow your mind to recharge, so when you return to your work, you're able to focus more effectively. The key is to find the right balance of work and rest that works for you. A technique that many people find helpful is the Pomodoro technique. This method involves working for 25-minute intervals, followed by a 5-minute break. After completing 4 intervals, you take a longer break, about 15 to 30 minutes. This method works because it capitalizes on our brain's natural attention span and helps prevent burnout. It also creates a sense of urgency that can increase your focus during those 25 minutes. The structured intervals give your brain a clear start and end point, making it easier to get into a focused state. As you work on strengthening your ability to focus, you'll also notice that your tolerance for distractions begins to lower. Over time, you'll find that your ability to block out noise, whether it's a distracting thought or the hum of the world around you, becomes easier. You'll start to feel more in control of your environment and less at the mercy of external distractions. One of the most powerful tools for mastering focus is mindfulness. Practicing mindfulness allows you to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings in the present moment. When you're mindful, you can notice when your attention starts to wander and gently bring it back to the task at hand. The key is not to judge yourself when your mind drifts, but to simply notice it and refocus. This act of awareness and redirection is what strengthens your focus muscle over time. Focus is a skill that requires practice and intention. It's easy to get distracted, but the more you practice honing in on what truly matters, the more you'll find that you can accomplish. In a world full of distractions, mastering focus is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. By committing to being present, minimizing distractions, and creating structured routines that support your deep work, you'll begin to see your productivity skyrocket and your goals within reach. So, take a deep breath, set your intentions, and start practicing the art of focus today. The results will speak for themselves. Chapter 15. Leveraging accountability for success. We all know the feeling of setting goals, making plans, and getting excited about the possibility of achieving something great. But then, as time passes, the motivation begins to fade. The distractions start to pile up, and the enthusiasm we once had begins to dissipate. We start making excuses, and before we know it, our goals are just distant dreams. This is where accountability becomes crucial. It's that constant reminder that you're not just working for yourself, but that someone or something is watching, holding you to your commitments. It's a force that can keep you moving forward, even when you don't feel like it. It's the difference between saying, "I'll get to it later," and saying, "I need to do this now." When you have someone or something holding you accountable, you become more committed to your actions and more intentional in your decisions. But here's the thing, accountability doesn't just come from other people. While having someone in your corner, whether it's a mentor, a friend, or a colleague, can certainly help keep you on track, the most effective form of accountability is the one that comes from within. When you learn to hold yourself accountable, you become unstoppable. You begin to rely less on external forces to motivate you, and more on your own inner discipline and sense of responsibility. It's easy to say, "I'll do it tomorrow," but that's the slippery slope that leads to procrastination and self-doubt. The truth is, waiting for motivation to strike is a fool's game. Motivation comes and goes. The key to real progress is not motivation, it's discipline. And discipline is born from accountability. If you want to make progress toward your goals, you have to create a system of accountability that works for you. A great place to start is by setting clear and measurable goals. When you have a clear vision of what you want to achieve, it becomes much easier to break down that vision into actionable steps. The more specific and detailed your goals are, the easier it will be to track your progress. You're no longer working in the abstract, you're working towards something concrete. Whether it's writing a book, losing weight, building a business, or learning a new skill, the clarity of your goal will help you stay on track and make it easier for others to hold you accountable. But clarity is only part of the equation. You also need to create a system to track your progress and stay accountable to your commitments. It's not enough to say, "I'm going to do this thing." You need to break it down into smaller tasks, set deadlines, and make sure you're checking in on your progress regularly. If you're not measuring your progress, how will you know if you're moving in the right direction? One of the simplest ways to build accountability is through regular check-ins. This can be with yourself or with someone else. You don't have to report to someone every day, but setting a schedule for progress updates, whether weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly, can help you stay on track. If you're working on a long-term project, like writing a book or starting a business, it's easy to lose sight of how far you've come. Regular check-ins remind you of your progress and keep you motivated to continue pushing forward. If you prefer external accountability, find someone who will hold you to your word. It could be a friend, a family member, a mentor, or even a coach. The key is to find someone who genuinely cares about your success and is willing to check in on you regularly. This isn't about having someone breathing down your neck. It's about having someone who will support you, challenge you, and keep you responsible for your commitments. When you have someone counting on you, it becomes much harder to let those goals slide. But accountability is not just about having someone else keep you in check. It's also about how you approach your own actions. If you want to be successful, you have to take responsibility for your results. That means not blaming others, not making excuses, and not waiting for the perfect moment. It's about owning your choices and being willing to face the consequences of your actions, whether those consequences are positive or negative. Accountability requires that you show up, day after day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. It's about doing the work when no one is watching, because you've made a promise to yourself that you will. You will start to notice that as you consistently take action, you'll feel more empowered. You'll begin to trust yourself more, because you're doing what you said you would do. And as your self-trust grows, so does your sense of accomplishment. Accountability isn't just about completing tasks. It's also about building integrity. Integrity means doing what you say you will do, even when no one else is looking. It's about aligning your actions with your values and taking responsibility for the choices you make. When you hold yourself accountable, you build trust with yourself and others. This trust becomes the foundation for all of your future success. But here's the catch: accountability can't be forced. It's something that has to come from within. If you don't truly care about your goals, or if you don't see the value in achieving them, no external system of accountability will work. The real power of accountability comes when you develop a deep sense of purpose and commitment to your goals. When you are clear on why you're doing something, accountability becomes less of a chore and more of a natural byproduct of your determination to succeed. Another key aspect of accountability is understanding that it's not always going to be easy. You will have days when you fall short, when you miss a deadline, when you feel like giving up. That's normal. What matters is how you respond when that happens. Will you let one setback derail your entire plan? Or will you take responsibility for the mistake, learn from it, and move forward? Holding yourself accountable means accepting that mistakes are part of the process and using them as opportunities to grow and improve. One of the best ways to build accountability is to create a public commitment. When you tell others about your goals, you are more likely to take them seriously. Public commitment raises the stakes because now other people are aware of what you're working toward. This can be incredibly motivating. Whether it's sharing your goals with a group of friends, posting your progress on social media, or even telling your boss about your plans, having others know what you're doing adds a layer of responsibility. It makes you less likely to quit because you don't want to let others down. Accountability isn't about punishment. It's about encouragement. It's about creating a system that keeps you motivated, on track, and inspired to keep moving forward. The more you hold yourself accountable, the more you will realize that the power to achieve your goals is entirely in your hands. You can create the life you want, but it requires consistency, responsibility, and a deep sense of commitment. With accountability as your ally, there's nothing you can't accomplish. Chapter 16. Transforming fear into fuel. Fear is an emotion that every one of us has experienced. It's that feeling that grips us in the chest when we're about to do something big, when we step into the unknown, or when the stakes are high. Fear is primal, it's instinctual, it's designed to protect us, to warn us of danger, and to keep us safe. But here's the thing, while fear is a natural and necessary part of being human, it doesn't have to control us. The key is learning how to transform that fear into something useful, something powerful. Instead of allowing fear to stop you in your tracks, what if you could use it as fuel to drive you forward? This is one of the most important shifts you'll need to make on your journey to success. When we think about fear, we often think of it as something negative. We picture ourselves frozen in place, paralyzed by doubt and uncertainty. We tell ourselves that fear is a signal to stop, to avoid the thing we're afraid of, and to seek safety. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if we viewed fear not as something to run away from, but as something to lean into? When you start to see fear as a signal that you're on the edge of growth, you'll realize that fear isn't the enemy, it's the ally you've been waiting for. Think about the moments in your life when you've been most afraid. Maybe it was the first time you did something big and bold, like giving a public speech, asking for a promotion, or starting a new project. The fear you felt in those moments wasn't necessarily a sign that you were doing something wrong. It was a sign that you were about to do something right. It was the universe's way of saying, "This matters." Fear often shows up when we're stretching outside of our comfort zones, when we're pushing ourselves to be more than we were yesterday. This doesn't mean that fear disappears once we've achieved something. No, fear is always there, lurking in the background, waiting to make an appearance when we're faced with new challenges. But instead of fearing the fear, you can learn to see it as a signal that you're doing something significant, something worthwhile. When fear arises, it's often a sign that you're taking risks, that you're on the edge of breaking through to the next level. The key to transforming fear into fuel is understanding that fear is not an indication of failure. In fact, it's often the opposite. It's a sign that you're doing something right. You're pushing yourself to grow, to learn, and to evolve. Fear shows up because you're about to do something that matters, and the more you embrace this truth, the less power fear will have over you. One of the most effective ways to deal with fear is to reframe it. Instead of seeing fear as something negative, try seeing it as a tool. When you reframe fear, you stop allowing it to control you. You stop viewing it as a roadblock and start seeing it as a springboard. Fear becomes a catalyst for action instead of a reason to freeze. When you begin to reframe fear, you're telling yourself, "I'm not afraid of fear. I'm going to use this fear to propel me forward." Another powerful way to transform fear into fuel is by taking action despite it. Fear doesn't disappear because you wait for it to go away. In fact, the longer you wait, the bigger and scarier the fear feels. But when you take action in spite of fear, you prove to yourself that you're stronger than your fears. Each step you take, while feeling afraid, is a victory. The more action you take, the more the fear shrinks, and the more your confidence grows. Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into the unknown. The fear you feel is real. It's your body's way of telling you that you're about to take a leap of faith. But instead of stepping back, instead of retreating, you take that step forward. You leap. And in that moment, the fear doesn't go away, but you realize that you can still move forward with it. You realize that fear doesn't have to hold you back. It can be the very thing that propels you into new experiences and opportunities. Fear often has the power to distort our perception. It makes us believe that the worst-case scenario is inevitable. It magnifies the risks, the dangers, and the potential for failure. But in reality, most of the things we fear never come to pass. The fear of failure is often worse than the failure itself. When we allow fear to control us, we limit ourselves. We hold ourselves back from trying new things, from seizing opportunities, and from reaching our full potential. But when we confront that fear head-on, when we face it and keep moving forward, we realize that the worst-case scenario is rarely as bad as we imagined. One of the most powerful shifts you can make is to stop viewing failure as something to avoid at all costs. Failure isn't the end, it's part of the process. It's a lesson, an opportunity to learn, grow, and improve. If you fear failure, you'll never take the risks that are necessary for success. But when you embrace failure as part of the journey, you're free to take action without fear of what might go wrong. You begin to see failure not as a failure, but as a stepping stone on the path to success. There's a quote by one of the greatest thinkers of our time, Ralph Waldo Emerson, that perfectly sums up the idea of transforming fear into fuel. Do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. When you face your fears, when you do the very thing that scares you, fear loses its power. It's like a shadow that disappears the moment you step into the light. And once you've taken that leap, once you've confronted your fears head-on, you'll look back and realize that the fear you once felt was just a passing moment, something that never truly had the power to stop you. So the next time fear arises, don't run from it. Don't hide from it. Lean into it. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to tell me? How can I use this fear to fuel my next step? And then take that step. Because the truth is, the only way to break through your fears is to take action in spite of them. The more you do this, the more fearless you'll become, and the more success you'll unlock. Fear is a signal, not a roadblock. It's a reminder that you're on the verge of something big, something important. When you learn to transform that fear into fuel, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Chapter 17. Rewiring your brain for success. Rewiring your brain for success isn't just about learning new habits or setting bigger goals. It's about completely shifting the way you think, act, and perceive the world around you. The mind, in all its complexities, is not a fixed entity. It has the incredible ability to adapt, grow, and evolve. Every time you take on a new challenge or push yourself beyond your comfort zone, your brain is creating new pathways. This is the power of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. With this understanding, you can literally reshape the way your brain works in a way that promotes success. The first step to rewiring your brain is to realize that your current thoughts and beliefs are not necessarily truths. They are simply habits. Habits, both good and bad, are patterns your brain has formed over time. They are comfortable and automatic. When we engage in certain behaviors repeatedly, our brains form a neural connection, reinforcing those behaviors as normal or necessary. This is why, if you've been stuck in a cycle of procrastination, fear, or self-doubt, it can feel almost impossible to break free. The brain has become so accustomed to those patterns that it feels like they are an essential part of who you are. But here's the good news. Just as your brain learned these habits, it can unlearn them. Changing your mindset starts with being aware of the thought patterns that are holding you back. If you want to rewire your brain for success, you need to first acknowledge the ways in which your current thinking is limiting you. For example, many people have deeply ingrained beliefs about their abilities. They may think, "I'm not smart enough," or "I'm not disciplined enough to succeed." These limiting beliefs become ingrained in the brain over time, reinforcing a false identity of who you are. To start rewiring your brain, you need to challenge these beliefs and replace them with new, empowering ones. Instead of telling yourself you're not disciplined enough, you could start telling yourself that you have the power to build discipline and that every day is an opportunity to improve. One of the most powerful tools for rewiring the brain is the practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to become more aware of your thoughts and feelings in the present moment without judgment. By cultivating mindfulness, you can begin to notice when negative or limiting thoughts arise and choose not to engage with them. This act of observing your thoughts without judgment helps you create some distance between yourself and those thoughts, allowing you to choose more constructive responses. Instead of immediately falling into the pattern of self-doubt, you can begin to shift your mindset by choosing to respond with optimism, determination, and self-compassion. Another essential practice for rewiring your brain is visualization. Visualization is not just about imagining a successful outcome. It's about vividly experiencing the emotions, the process, and the environment that will help you achieve your goals. When you vividly imagine success, you activate the same neural pathways as if you were actually experiencing that success. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real and vividly imagined experiences, so when you visualize your success, you're actually training your brain to feel confident, capable, and motivated to take action. Visualization creates a mental roadmap for your success, helping your brain focus on the possibilities instead of the obstacles. In addition to mindfulness and visualization, one of the most effective ways to rewire your brain is through consistent, small actions. The brain thrives on repetition. The more often you repeat an action, the stronger the neural connections become. This is why it's essential to develop daily habits that align with your goals. If you want to rewire your brain to believe that you are disciplined, you need to consistently take small disciplined actions every day. It could be something as simple as making your bed every morning, setting a timer for focused work, or committing to a daily exercise routine. These small actions may seem insignificant at first, but over time, they help build momentum and strengthen the neural pathways that support your success. One of the most profound ways to rewire your brain is by changing the way you speak to yourself. The language you use, both internally and externally, shapes your reality. When you constantly tell yourself, "I can't," "I'm not good enough," or "this is too hard," you reinforce the belief that you are powerless. On the other hand, when you speak to yourself with encouragement, compassion, and determination, you change the way you see yourself. Instead of saying, "This is too difficult for me," try saying, "This is a challenge, and I'm capable of overcoming it." Repeating empowering statements can reprogram your subconscious mind and strengthen your belief in your ability to succeed. It's important to remember that rewiring your brain for success is not a quick fix. It takes time, patience, and consistent effort. But every small change you make compounds over time. Each time you challenge a limiting belief, take consistent action, or speak to yourself with encouragement, you're strengthening the neural pathways that support your success. The more you reinforce these positive habits, the easier it becomes to think, feel, and act in ways that are aligned with your goals. Another aspect of rewiring your brain for success is learning to embrace discomfort. Growth happens when we push ourselves beyond our current limitations, and discomfort is an inevitable part of that process. If you're not feeling discomfort, you're probably not growing. The brain is naturally inclined to seek comfort, but if you want to achieve extraordinary results, you have to get comfortable with discomfort. Whether it's pushing through a challenging workout, having a difficult conversation, or taking on a project that scares you, embracing discomfort is one of the most effective ways to rewire your brain for success. When you can face discomfort with resilience and courage, you reinforce the idea that you are capable of handling challenges, no matter how difficult they may seem. Rewiring your brain also involves cultivating a mindset of gratitude. Gratitude has been shown to have a profound effect on the brain, increasing levels of dopamine and serotonin, the feel-good chemicals that promote happiness and well-being. When you focus on what you're grateful for, you shift your brain's attention away from what's lacking or going wrong, and instead focus on what's going right. Gratitude helps you maintain a positive outlook, even in the face of challenges. It's a powerful tool for rewiring your brain to focus on abundance, not scarcity. As you continue on this journey of rewiring your brain for success, remember that you are in control. The thoughts you think, the actions you take, and the words you speak all have the power to reshape your brain. It may feel slow at times, but with each step you are creating new neural pathways that support your growth and success. Rewiring your brain isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And every day that you take intentional steps toward your goals, you are rewiring your brain to believe that success is inevitable. Ultimately, rewiring your brain for success is about creating a new belief system. You have the power to shape your reality by changing the way you think. And as you begin to believe in your ability to succeed, you'll start to take more confident, bold actions. Your brain will work in your favor, not against you. You'll begin to see opportunities where once there were only obstacles. And most importantly, you'll realize that success isn't just something you achieve, it's something that you create every single day through the power of your thoughts, beliefs, and actions. Chapter 18. The Power of Reflection and Self-Assessment. Reflection and self-assessment are crucial parts of the process of personal growth and success, yet they often get overlooked in the hustle of daily life. So many of us are caught up in the drive to do more, achieve more, and move faster that we forget the value of slowing down and taking a moment to reflect on where we've been, what we've learned, and where we're headed. If you want to build a life of intentional success, it's essential to create space for self-reflection and honest self-assessment. This practice doesn't just help you understand where you are, but it also helps you clarify where you're going and how to get there with purpose. When we take time to reflect, we engage in a process that forces us to be honest with ourselves. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that we're doing everything right, especially when we're caught in the excitement of our goals. But without honest reflection, it's easy to miss out on opportunities for growth or to make the same mistakes over and over. Reflection helps us take stock of what we're doing well and where we might be missing the mark, offering us the wisdom and clarity to move forward in a more focused, intentional way. To reflect effectively, we need to look at our progress, not just in terms of outcomes, but also in terms of the process. It's easy to focus on the end result, the completed project, the achievement of the goal, or the recognition of success, but true growth comes from the journey. When you take time to reflect on the process, you open yourself up to understanding what worked, what didn't, and why. This insight is invaluable because it allows you to adapt and refine your approach as you go. If you've been consistently doing things one way and not seeing the results you want, it's time to stop and reflect. Ask yourself, Why isn't this working? What could I be doing differently? How can I approach this from a new angle? One powerful way to engage in reflection is to ask yourself meaningful questions that go beyond the surface. Ask yourself, what have I learned today? What challenges did I face? And how did I respond to them? Where did I step out of my comfort zone? What actions have moved me closer to my goals? And where did I fall short? These kinds of questions force you to look at your behavior and decisions with a critical eye, helping you to identify patterns and areas for improvement. But reflection is not just about looking at what went wrong, it's also about celebrating what went right. It's easy to overlook your successes when you're always looking ahead, striving for the next big thing. But taking time to acknowledge your wins, no matter how small, is essential for building confidence and maintaining motivation. Reflection isn't only about identifying areas of growth, it's also about recognizing your achievements, no matter how minor they may seem. When you reflect on the progress you've made, you reinforce the idea that you are capable of success, which fuels the drive to continue moving forward. In addition to self-reflection, self-assessment is the practice of evaluating where you stand in relation to your goals and values. It's about being honest with yourself about whether the actions you're taking are aligning with your vision for the future. It's easy to get caught up in the busyness of life and to start chasing after things that don't truly matter to you. Self-assessment is a way to check in with yourself regularly, ensuring that the steps you're taking are bringing you closer to your true aspirations. It's about identifying the gaps between where you are and where you want to be, and then creating a plan to close those gaps. In a way, reflection and self-assessment serve as the GPS for your journey of growth. Without them, you're driving blind, making progress, but not necessarily in the direction you want to go. By taking time to reflect and assess, you recalibrate your course and ensure that you're heading toward your true north. These practices give you the clarity and direction you need to stay focused and motivated, even when the road gets tough. One of the challenges of reflection is that it can be uncomfortable. When we take an honest look at our lives, it's easy to focus on the things we wish we had done differently, the mistakes we've made, or the things we haven't yet accomplished. It's important to remember that self-reflection is not about self-criticism. It's not about beating yourself up for what you didn't do, but rather about learning from those experiences and using them as stepping stones for growth. This shift in perspective is essential because it allows you to see failure and setbacks as opportunities, not obstacles. Self-assessment also requires you to be accountable to yourself. It's about holding yourself to a higher standard and making sure that your actions are aligned with your values. When you take time to assess your progress, you force yourself to face the truth about what you're doing and, more importantly, what you're not doing. Are you putting in the effort? Are you staying disciplined? Are you staying true to your word and honoring your commitments? If you're not, this is your chance to course correct and make the necessary adjustments. Self-assessment isn't meant to be a judgment of your character, it's simply a way to keep you on track and ensure that your actions are leading you toward your highest potential. Another important aspect of reflection and self-assessment is the ability to learn from others. While it's essential to be honest with yourself, it's equally important to seek out feedback from others. Whether it's a mentor, a friend, or a colleague, feedback provides an outside perspective that can help you see things you might have missed. Sometimes we are too close to our own situations to recognize where we're falling short or where we could improve. Having someone else offer constructive criticism can be a powerful tool for growth. When you're able to receive feedback without taking it personally, you open yourself up to a wealth of knowledge that can help you move forward. As you continue to reflect and assess, remember that this is an ongoing process. It's not something you do once and forget about. It's a continuous cycle that helps you evolve and adapt. The more regularly you reflect and assess, the more you will strengthen your ability to make intentional, thoughtful decisions that align with your goals. And as you do this, you'll find that your actions become more purposeful, your mindset more focused, and your journey towards success more intentional. At the end of the day, reflection and self-assessment are not about perfection, they're about progress. They help you stay on track, learn from your mistakes, celebrate your wins, and keep moving toward the life you want to create. If you truly want to grow and succeed, it's essential to make time for these practices. The more you embrace reflection and self-assessment, the more you'll understand yourself, your motivations, and your potential. You'll begin to see that every experience, whether good or bad, is a lesson that brings you closer to your goals. And through this process, you'll learn to become the best version of yourself, not just in terms of your achievements, but in the way you show up for yourself and others. Chapter 19. The long-term view, patience and persistence. When you're striving for success, it's easy to become fixated on the short-term goals, the immediate results, the hustle of the day-to-day grind. We live in a world that's obsessed with speed, instant gratification, and quick fixes. But one of the greatest misconceptions about success is that it's something that happens overnight, that you can somehow achieve all your dreams in a few weeks or months. In reality, true success is built over time. It's a long-term process that requires patience, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to your vision. This is where the long-term view comes in, developing the ability to see beyond the immediate obstacles, delays, and setbacks, and focusing on the bigger picture of what you're ultimately trying to achieve. Success isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. It's not about quick wins, but about steady, consistent progress over a period of years. And understanding that journey is key to overcoming the inevitable moments of frustration or self-doubt. There will be times when you're not seeing the progress you want, when you feel like you're stuck or not moving fast enough, but it's in these moments that you have to remind yourself that this is part of the process. The road to success is not linear. It's full of ups and downs, twists and turns and detours, and that's okay. What matters is that you stay on the road, even when it feels like you're not getting closer to the finish line. When you develop a long-term view, you start to appreciate the value of persistence. Success is rarely about a single moment or breakthrough. More often, it's about the cumulative effect of small, consistent actions over time. It's easy to get discouraged when you don't see immediate results, but the truth is that real growth takes time. Each small step you take, even when it feels insignificant, is moving you forward. If you look at the bigger picture, you'll see that those small, seemingly insignificant actions are adding up. Over time, they become the foundation of your success. Another important aspect of developing a long-term view is accepting that the road to success is rarely a straight line. There will be setbacks, failures, and moments where you question whether it's all worth it. But it's in those moments that you have to remind yourself that every setback is an opportunity to learn. Failure is not the end. It's simply a lesson that brings you one step closer to your goal. When you view challenges and obstacles as stepping stones rather than roadblocks, you can maintain a positive, forward-moving momentum even when things don't go according to plan. One of the challenges of taking a long-term view is dealing with impatience. In a world that's driven by instant access and quick results, patience can be a rare commodity. But patience is a muscle that needs to be cultivated. The more you practice patience, the easier it becomes to stick to the path, even when the rewards seem distant. The key to developing patience is understanding that the process itself is valuable. Every experience, every challenge, every success along the way is a part of the journey. It's not just about getting to the end, it's about what you learn, how you grow, and who you become along the way. In a world that's constantly urging us to do more, be more, and achieve more, the long-term view helps us stay grounded in what really matters. It's about taking the time to build a foundation that will sustain your success for years to come, rather than seeking out temporary fleeting rewards. When you focus on the long term, you start to prioritize the actions and habits that will serve you over the course of your entire life, rather than the quick fixes that might offer temporary satisfaction but leave you feeling empty in the long run. The long-term view is also about being flexible with your goals. Life is unpredictable, and sometimes things don't go according to plan. You might encounter setbacks, change your priorities, or realize that the goals you once set for yourself no longer align with who you are. The beauty of a long-term view is that it allows you to adapt and evolve. It's not about rigidly sticking to one path, but about staying connected to your overall vision and making adjustments along the way. The process of growing and learning never truly ends, and the long-term view keeps you open to new possibilities, new opportunities, and new directions that you may not have seen before. One of the best ways to build a long-term view is to establish long-term habits. Short-term motivation might get you started, but it's the daily habits and routines that will keep you moving forward in the long run. It's easy to get excited about a new project or goal, but excitement fades and motivation wanes. What keeps you going when the excitement dies down is the daily discipline of showing up, putting in the work, and staying committed. When you establish habits that are aligned with your long-term vision, you create momentum that will carry you through even the toughest times. And this is where consistency becomes your greatest ally. Consistency is not about perfection, it's about showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. It's not the people who have the most talent, the biggest breakthroughs, or the quickest results who achieve lasting success. It's the ones who keep going, day after day, regardless of the circumstances. They keep putting in the work, and over time, that work adds up. It's important to remember that success doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just about you, it's about the people around you, the relationships you build, and the impact you have on others. When you develop a long-term view, you start to see the bigger picture of how your actions and decisions affect not just your own life, but the lives of those around you. You start to build a legacy, not just of success but of meaning and purpose. It's about leaving behind something that lasts, a life that has made a difference, a journey that has had an impact on others, and a path that others can follow. When you adopt the long-term view, you shift from a mindset of scarcity to one of abundance. In the short term, it's easy to feel like you're running out of time, resources, or opportunities. But when you focus on the long term, you realize that there is plenty of time, plenty of room for growth, and plenty of opportunities if you're willing to put in the work. You stop focusing on what you don't have and start appreciating what you do have. This shift in perspective is incredibly powerful, as it allows you to stay motivated, focused, and grateful for the journey you're on. True success comes from patience, persistence, and a long-term commitment to your vision. It's about staying the course, even when things get tough. It's about showing up every day, doing the work, and trusting that, over time, your efforts will pay off. The long-term view is the foundation of true, lasting success, and it's the mindset that will help you push through the inevitable setbacks and obstacles that will come your way. So stay focused on your vision. Embrace the journey, and remember that true success is not just about where you're going, but about who you become along the way. Chapter 20. Creating your actionable future. Imagine waking up every day with a sense of purpose. Not just any purpose, but a deep, burning desire to create the future you've always envisioned for yourself. The feeling of waking up and knowing that you have a clear plan, a precise direction, and that every action you take is moving you closer to something meaningful. This is the power of creating your actionable future. The truth is, most people spend their lives floating through the days, reacting to the present moment, and letting the future unfold without any real control or input from them. They let circumstances dictate their path, never taking ownership of where they're headed. But here's the thing, your future is not some abstract, distant thing that will just happen one day. It's being created right now, in every choice, every habit, and every action you take. And once you realize that, you can start to actively shape it. The first step in creating your actionable future is understanding the importance of intentionality. So many of us go through life without thinking about the future, or at least without thinking about it in a way that empowers us. When you're intentional, you're making decisions with purpose. You're not letting life simply happen to you. Instead, you're taking full responsibility for what comes next. You're no longer a passive observer. You're the architect of your destiny. You have the power to influence the future you want to build, but it all starts with the mindset that you're in control. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that the future is too far away to worry about today. They think that it will come in its own time, that things will somehow work out. The problem with this mindset is that it leads to complacency. If you're not actively planning and making decisions today that affect your future, you're leaving everything to chance. And that's not how you create lasting success. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment or the perfect opportunity, you must take responsibility for building your future now. The choices you make today are the building blocks for tomorrow. Creating your actionable future doesn't mean having everything figured out all at once. It's not about knowing every detail or having a step-by-step plan laid out perfectly. In fact, your path will likely change, and you'll encounter obstacles along the way. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that you begin. The action you take today will set things in motion, and it's that action that will create momentum. So don't wait for the perfect plan. Start with what you know. Take the first step and adjust as you go. An important aspect of creating your future is setting clear goals. And these goals need to be more than just vague ideas. They need to be specific, actionable, and aligned with your deeper values. The reason so many people fail to achieve their goals is because they don't take the time to make them concrete. They might say, "I want to be successful," or "I want to lose weight," but those are just general wishes. Success doesn't happen with wishes. It happens with clarity and intention. So take the time to define what success looks like for you. Break it down into measurable, actionable steps. Create a vision for the future that excites you, and then break that vision into small, manageable goals that you can work toward every day. Once you have your goals set, the next step is to create a daily plan of action. This is where most people falter. They don't make the transition from dreaming to doing. But without action, dreams are just wishes. To make your future actionable, you need to develop habits that align with your goals. Every action you take should be moving you closer to what you've set out to achieve. And this means that consistency is key. It's not enough to take action one day and then let it slip the next. Building your future requires consistent, daily effort. In the beginning, this will feel hard. It's natural. You won't see immediate results, and you might even question whether it's worth it. But this is where most people give up. They don't see the connection between their efforts and their goals because the results aren't immediately apparent. But here's the thing, results take time to materialize. The success you'll eventually see is a reflection of the consistent small actions you took day in and day out. Even when it doesn't feel like it, you're building something important. The key is to trust the process and stay committed to showing up, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Another key element in creating your actionable future is learning how to adapt and adjust. The world changes constantly, and you will face unforeseen challenges and shifts in direction. Your original plan might not always work out as expected. That's okay. The ability to adapt is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. If something isn't working, don't be afraid to tweak your approach, adjust your strategy, or shift your goals. Flexibility is essential when it comes to creating a future that you're proud of. The important thing is to stay focused on your overall vision and keep moving forward, even when the path isn't as straightforward as you'd like. In order to keep creating the future you want, it's essential to reflect on your progress regularly. Every few months, take a step back and assess where you are. Are you moving closer to your goals? Are you taking the actions necessary to achieve the future you want? Reflection allows you to course correct when needed and helps you stay aligned with your values and vision. It's easy to get off track without this regular check-in. By making reflection a part of your process, you ensure that you remain focused on your long-term goals and keep making the necessary adjustments to move forward. Finally, one of the most powerful tools in creating your actionable future is the ability to visualize it. When you can see your future clearly in your mind, it becomes easier to take the steps necessary to get there. Visualization helps you stay focused on your goals and reminds you of the bigger picture. When things get tough, or when you feel discouraged, a clear vision of your future can act as a beacon, guiding you through the challenges. It serves as a constant reminder of why you're putting in the effort and what's waiting for you on the other side. Creating your actionable future requires you to take full ownership of your life and your choices. It's about no longer being a passive participant, but a proactive creator. The future is not something that just happens to you. It's something you build every day through the actions, decisions, and habits you form. So take a step back, define your vision, set your goals, and start taking the actions necessary to make that vision a reality. It won't always be easy, but it will always be worth it. Your future is in your hands, so start creating it today.